Ray Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Well, if it wasn't before, the Kansas City Chiefs now qualify officially as a dynasty.
Yes, they do.
3 and 5.
Dynasty.
Is that your definition, guys? 3 and 5? That's mine. I mean,
And man, you went back. Listen, anytime you went back to back, they didn't even need the other two.
oh really? You think 2 in a row makes a dynasty?
Yeah, 2 in a row means
Man,
dynasty to me.
and the words of Future, 3 rings on my left like I'm King James.
That's exactly right. I think it is a dynasty. I don't know that 2 in a row makes a dynasty because there was one thing that was said last night during the telecast that really drives home how dynastic this is. Mm-hmm. Chris Jones is the only starting member of the defense from the one they won 5 years ago. Think about that. And their defense is better than it's been during this run.
Yeah, shout out to Spags, man.
Oh, my God. He may be the best to ever do it. And that includes Belichick and Mangini on defensive
I don't
coordinators.
understand why, this is the thing, to me, in sports. I don't understand why they try to act like defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators, just because you won a ring and you weren't the head coach or the quarterback, it didn't count for you.
Yeah.
Come on, you're a
it
defensive
counts.
coordinator. Them counts. I don't understand why. Oh, well, he has 4 rings or what. I'm like, bro, listen, them count. You can't discount the fact just because you was a coordinator. So, yeah,
I mean, think about this though. Spags was the DC who put a stop to New England's,
That's right.
Almost perfect season.
That's right.
This dude deserves a lot of credit because this is what I think his 4th Super Bowl.
4th Super Bowl
as a coordinator. So it says a lot about him.
We're going to dive into everything Super Bowl 58. For me, the game was won on 2 3rd and 4s when the Kansas City defense was on the field. Mm-hmm. If all really San Francisco had to do is convert on one of those 2 3rd and 4s, and they likely are Super Bowl champions right now. They couldn't. Everybody in the building knew Spags was going to send the house on both, and they had no blitz beater to pick it up. I thought that for me, this Super Bowl will be about cementing the legacy of Spags. No question about it. Not that it needed it, but it put the exclamation point behind it. And it also continues the missing gene in Kyle Shanahan. This dude has blown 3 10-point Super Bowl leads. Think about that. Now, granted, they were all to either Mahomes or Tom Brady, but that's almost impossible to do. He's the only guy to do it twice. Now he's done it 3 times. So a lot to get into with Super Bowl 58. A lot of big plays. What do you think of the halftime show? I'm sure we're going to discuss that. And the intersection of sports and culture in America. I think and no single day is it on display more than the Super Bowl. It really was the intersection of culture and sports. Mikey McNuggets, you, according to our chain last night, were a big winner on the betting front.
I did pretty good yesterday, yeah. Our UCSS same game parlay did not hit.
What missed?
3 of the 5.
Other than that, we were great.
Now, granted, overtime, which obviously counts,
Yeah.
the under would have definitely hit. Purdy's under passing yards would have
Well,
hit.
the under hit, right?
No, we got it at 46.5.
Oh.
When it closed, it went down to 46.5.
So we missed on the under.
Yeah, and then we didn't. Purdy went over his passing yards, but he needed the extra period to do so.
Yeah.
Pacheco didn't hit his rushing yards, and Kelsey never scored a touchdown. So
I don't bet. I do buy squares. I bought them for a couple different Super Bowl parties. You talk about the ultimate bad luck. I drew 9 and 9.
No way.
On one of my squares.
No way.
And I laughed. I said, there's a 0% chance of that hitting. 9 and 9. When in the hell can 9 and 9 hit? It's like getting 5 and 5, right?
It ain't gonna happen.
The game ended 9 and 9. But it doesn't pay for the fourth quarter, just the final score.
It pays for the end of game. Yeah, that's brutal.
It may be the worst square Super Bowl luck I've ever had.
That's tough.
The one square I had, because I think I had 6 in total. The one square I had that I thought had 0% chance of winning hits at the end of the fourth quarter and doesn't pay.
There's some tension in the room, though. Mike, We're not just coworkers. Would you say we brothers?
Yeah, you're my guy. What's up?
All right, so if we brothers, right, and you got a bet in, you supposed to hit the chat.
Oh, I did hit the chat. I told you guys on Thursday, lock on the national anthem over.
No,
Which
no,
hit.
no, 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 no. The 15-1 overtime. Or the game going to overtime.
So that was actually, yeah, I did win that. I had $4.87 left in my FanDuel account after going through the other props.
And you
I was
couldn't
like, what's
text me?
Can I ask a question on the? I was under
Yes.
the impression that things that were out of the control of the athletes were not. You're not able to bet.
Not in Ohio. You
Well,
can
how
in
did
New
you
York.
bet it? You live in Ohio.
I sent money to my brother in New York.
Oh, just admitted to racketeering on.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Can we bleep that out?
No
It's
big-
nothing.
yeah,
he
no
won
big.
$350,000 on it, but it's nothing.
No, I did not win anything like that. We're fine.
Yeah,
we find out
that's
Mike won $350,000.
No,
and didn't
if
say
I won
nothing.
$350, I would be here.
We find out.
No wonder he was acting all cool.
So, for those of you who don't know, the national anthem's pre-recorded. So that's a definitively that you can figure out that bet. You can figure it out.
It's not recorded.
Yes, it
before.
is.
She's not. Reba McEntire wasn't singing live.
She was lip
yesterday.
syncing.
Are you serious?
Look it up.
Well, the over hit, so I was happy. I don't care if it's lip sync live. It don't matter. But
All right.
But yeah, other than that, we're talking a little Cavs today. We're going to talk a little Ohio State. We're going to bring the Browns into the Super Bowl discussion. How close is Cleveland to the Chiefs level, and can the foundation that Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry are building in Cleveland become Patrick Mahomes' kryptonite? We're going to get to all that on today's show after a quick word from FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if you win. Right now on FanDuel, you can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and shoot your shot. FanDuel, an official partner of the NBA. Our winning ticket comes from our guy Butters. You remember Butters, who came in the Kool-Aid suit when the
I do
Browns
remember
made the playoffs?
Butters.
He hit a nice 10-part same-game parlay on the Super Bowl yesterday. Turned $5 into $55, so 11-1 odds on some alternate spreads. But shout out to Butters, a 10-part same-game parlay. I found out Butters' name is Brandon. He's come in studio, had no idea what his real name was. When Butters left after coming in with the Kool-Aid, myself, Earl, and Ant looked around. We're like, I don't know if we know Butters' real name. And we learned it's Brandon because he tweeted us on FanDuel. If you have a winning ticket, make sure you send it to us on FanDuel.
That's kind
on
of
Twitter
risky.
as
We
well.
let a guy in the building whose name we knew
we've
about
met
his
him
name
in
was
person
Butters.
a couple times. He came to the card show when we were out there.
Right.
He came in. He brought us the Kool-Aid that we made.
How
So
did
we-
you put
we
him on
know
the guest
Brandon.
list upstairs? Butters will be coming in to see us.
Well, James just calls me when we have a guest upstairs and says
Okay.
I got a guest coming. So it worked out. But shout out Brandon /Butters. Congrats on the win. If you have a winning ticket, make sure you send it to us on Twitter or via email. Let's start with the big question from the Super Bowl, though, yesterday, guys. It went to overtime. I'll start with this. Did you know the NFL had changed the overtime rules? Because, hand up my bad, I did not know the overtime rules were changed. I also did not know that the players were unaware of the rule change. It's one thing for me not to know. I feel like it's a whole different situation for some San Francisco 49ers players who, after the game, admitted they were unaware of this new NFL rule
Reminded me
change.
of when I think it was Russell Wilson. I can't remember.
No, it's Donovan McNabb and the
Donovan
time rule.
McNabb. He thought that back when it was sudden death, he didn't know that the game was over on the first score, which that was bizarre because those rules had been in existence for a million years. I do think that we talked about this, Mike, at the owners' meetings after they changed the rule. I feel like we talked about the rules committee had approved a change to the overtime rules, but nobody remembers it. That was months and months ago. But when they put the rules up and they were explaining it, I was like, wow, this is the first game that we've ever used this in.
I mean, I knew the rules had changed, but I'm not going to lie. I really didn't know the details
Right.
of the overtime rules or how it would play out. But to me, there's no excuse for the players not to know. And if the players were ignorant enough to not know, then that's on your head coach to
Absolutely.
inform you on what's going on. I read the article that was put out before we came on the show. The chief safety, Justin Reed, said they've been talking about this game planning for this since training camp.
Sure.
Chris Jones said they've been planning for this for the last 2 weeks. So if you are a player in the NFL and a rule change takes place, it's kind of like if you work a job, right? And the guidelines or the business manual and there's a change to it. as an employee, you have an obligation to read up on that because ignorance is not an excuse.
You're right.
Right? It can never
on
be.
you.
It's on you.
Yeah.
And then if you don't know, then it's on your head coach to make sure that my team is informed and understand what the rules are.
Yeah.
The good ones have contingency plans. The good ones over communicate. The good ones over inform. And you fail to serve your team in the best way possible because they were ignorant to the moment.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Y'all been fleeced twice. Today, I'm going to prove, and hopefully I do a good enough job of this as the totality of my argument comes to, it comes to the table. There's right now, there's only one team really out here trying to win, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs. There's a lot of teams, whether it is financial, whether it's game plan style, whether it's preparation, whether it's understanding the moment. The Kansas City Chiefs continually, at every corner, figure out a way that they want to win no matter what. If you are in the Super Bowl and it's the pinnacle of your career, and the fact is you may never, ever get back there again. Some people just take for granted you're going to be somewhere. No, it don't work that way. Ask Dan Marino how many times he was in the Super Bowl after he won his rookie year. It just goes to show you that once you get there, you got to be prepared at all levels and be prepared to do all kinds of things. And I love what Chris Jones said. He said if they would have scored a touchdown, we was going for 2. It just shows me the mind state of what the Kansas City Chiefs is doing on all different levels, on every level as an organization, is saying that they want to win at all costs. And these other teams come bubbling in, and the San Francisco 49ers, it's unacceptable. Unacceptable? How do you not know the rules? This is a game that's like being like, oh, you don't know how to go to break on time. McNuggets tells you it's a break. He just told you 4 seconds ago. You still not in break though. I don't understand how that's your craft and you don't practice. You haven't even put yourself in that situation. It's kind of funny, man.
What we saw, and I think it was further confirmed this morning when we really started hearing the stories about they just were not informed.
Right.
I thought this watching the game. After the first, there were 2 points where I said the Niners are going to definitively lose this game. The first one when they went 3 and out after the Mahomes interception. Mm-hmm. A Mahomes mistake in a playoff game comes less frequently than leap year. He gave you a gift. And great teams make sure they capitalize on gifts. What did the Chiefs do after the muffed punt? 1 play, dagger. That was the game. That play, those 2 play sequence, game. Kansas City knew after the muffed punt, we got a gift. We gave them a gift, and our defense forced them to 3 and out. We got to put our foot on their throats. Mm-hmm. So all throughout the game, to me, it was a display of a masterclass by Andy Reid on how to coach in a mammoth game. By Kyle Shanahan, he is a poser. That's what Kyle Shanahan is in terms of a great coach. He is great with schemes. He is great with offensive X's and O's. He is great with a lot of the game, like in a micro. This play, it's brilliant. This play, it's brilliant. But your play sheet can be better than the other guy's play sheet. But if the other guy uses his play sheet better, he trumps your great play sheet. I think Kyle Shanahan's plays are just better. That's saying something because I think Andy Reid is second only to Kyle Shanahan in terms of developing great offense. But this dude can't coach at the big moment. And not having his team. When you make the Super Bowl, you sit your whole team down for a seminar and you talk about this is what we're going to expect. For those of you that have been here, I want you to speak. For those of you that haven't, I want you to listen. Oh, by the way, there's a major rule change that could come into play that we need to know about. And we need to be prepared for what to do in that situation. And they fumbled that.
Yeah, they did.
I just think they didn't capitalize on the few mistakes Kansas City made, and Kansas City did.
And this is why I always give Kevin Stefanski love. Because, Jay, we've talked about it. G, we've talked about it. There are so many unwritten intangibles that goes into being a good head coach. Yeah, you can be a mastermind of putting a scheme together, but you also got to be a leader of men. You also got to be able to be that dude that can keep everything composed, right? You know, I'm a NASCAR guy. And to me, football is a lot like NASCAR. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? You have to be able to adjust, overcome, take your time, and just make sure that you got the best car at the end of the race so that you can come away victorious. What I saw in that game, early on in that game, it was almost like Kyle Shanahan set his team up for like a short run, kind of like they set up a car for a short run.
Oh, they looked great to start the game.
They looked great to start, but you know what happened? What I peeped, that first drive, before Christian McCaffrey even fumbled, Trent Williams, all-pro tackle, arguably the best in the game, right? You get 15 yards and penalty to put your team behind the chains. He ends up fumbling the football. To me, San Francisco messed around and they found out, because you have more opportunities to kind of seal their fate, put this game away, and you didn't capitalize on their mistakes. You made mistakes of your own, and you didn't capitalize on big moments. Meanwhile, Andy Reid is setting his team up for the long run. This is a 400-mile race. All we got to do is make sure that we got the best car in the last 10 laps, and we going to make sure we good. And sure enough, the cream rolls to the top when it mattered the most.
As it usually does.
As it usually does.
Yeah, listen, you got to bury these dudes. I was looking up, we was in the house, and my dad was like, man, we looked at each other. I said, oh, yeah. Y'all doing a nice little job or whatever it is. But y'all going to look back and y'all going to say, we should have been up 27-0. We should have been up 21-3. We should have been up. You looked up. They dominated for most of the game, and you looked up and was down 13-10.
Yeah.
I said, that's game. Because you gave Patrick Mahomes a rock back. You didn't capitalize. You got multiple fumbles. During that game, somebody asked me, I put it on Twitter, it looked like the Chiefs was shook. They was making uncharacteristic mistakes.
Kelsey's knocking over Andy Reid.
And see, here's the thing. I'm an emotional guy. I didn't like that, man.
I hated it.
I'm like, bro, come on, bro. You doing too much. I know your girl here. I know the people looking at you. But look, bro, stop running up on elderly people. Calm down.
That's not the first time he did that.
But that's to me that's
he's an emotional guy, but it almost got the best of him.
That's a sucker move. And he's been emotional like that in this postseason. I didn't like the look. They won the game because they had Patrick Mahomes. Let's be clear. That's
it.
He made plays when he
and
needed
a great
to.
defense.
And Chris Jones didn't play well. But, you know, that's what to beat the Chiefs, I want everybody to look around in the league. Whatever you're doing right now is not good enough. No. Whatever you're doing, saying that we're going to stay the course and whatever we did last year was good enough, it is not good enough to beat the Chiefs. Tear it down and figure something else out.
Mike, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask. So Shanahan in overtime decided to take the ball first.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it.
Without the context at the moment, it was all kind of confusing. Was that the right move? Was it not? Yeah. ESPN ran a simulation. It says about 50-50. But did you think, and obviously hindsight's 50-50. We all know the outcome. But
right.
Knowing the new overtime rules as we do now, if even if they scored a touchdown, Kansas City had a chance to match it. Do you still think if the Browns are ever in that scenario, would you want the ball first, second? What would you do if you were Kyle Shanahan in that situation?
Always. Second. I want it second. You know whether or not you have to go for it on fourth down. It's just like college overtime. Yeah. You know, it's 4th and 1. Do you kick the field goal? You don't know what your opponent's going to do. Information is power. The Chiefs had the information. Oh, a touchdown for us wins it.
Right.
So they had a 4th and 1 that they obviously had to go for.
Right.
There were key moments all up and down this game, and in the key moments, Kansas City won them. The 2 3rd and 4s that I talked about.
Yep.
The 3rd and 4 in regulation, where you know it's going to be a blitz. Nance and Romo were talking about it. This is in Spags' DNA. He's going to send the house. He always sends the house. They had no blitz beater there. Right. They had no pickup set.
And I thought that weren't they in 5? Were they in 5?
5 wide with empty backfield. What are you doing? And by the way, that play was for the football game. That was the game. Because if they get it, Kansas City's sitting on 2 timeouts. Mm-hmm. The 2-minute warning had already happened. So you now can assure that you can kick a field goal, and if you get another first down, you kick a field goal on the last play of the game.
Right. But see, Jay, this is my thinking, right? And Mike, correct me before I make this statement if I'm right or wrong on this. Those overtime rules that we saw in the Super Bowl is the same throughout the playoffs, right?
Yes.
All right, so
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so if it's in the Super Bowl, I'm like, y'all, I'm taking the ball second, right? But you know what, JG? If this is the AFC Championship game and I'm playing the Chiefs, it don't matter. I'm going to tell you why it don't matter, because I know that's Patrick Mahomes.
Sure.
Kyle Shanahan's mindset should have been, I need to go score a touchdown regardless.
It should have been.
Regardless, right?
They had a 3rd and 4 in overtime
Yeah.
that, again, they didn't pick up the blitz. He had to throw it away.
Like, you got to
Game.
read the room. You got to understand the situation. You got to understand what's going on. Man, that's Pat Mahomes. That's like Michael Jordan. I know, like, I joked with Jay when he walked in here. Jay walked in here 10, 15 seconds before the show, right? Mike said, man, you got about 15 seconds. I said, Jay don't need 15 seconds. That's the mindset what I think when I think of Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes don't need 15 seconds to come beat you. One play and it's over with. So in those situations, if I know like who the opposing quarterback is,
That's it.
I'm going down there and I'm trying to get 6.
That's a great point. You have to take into
going to get
account
6.
who you're playing. And the fact that I don't know that they took the ball second in a complete vacuum of not knowing the rules, because the referee before the coin toss clearly explained what the rules were.
Well, they usually tell, and who knows what happened last night, but there's usually a decision made by the coaching staff to tell the captain, if you win the toss, what are you going to do? Like, I don't think that's Fred Warner making that decision for the San Francisco 49ers. That's a decision beforehand.
Right, but honestly, I think in either scenario, you want the ball second. I mean, I understand that if Patrick Mahomes scores a touchdown, the game is over under the old rules. I get that. So to your point, in the AFC Championship, in a regular season game, rather, in the AFC Championship, I don't want Patrick Mahomes to touch the ball, because if I score a touchdown, the game is over in the regular season.
Right.
But in the playoffs, when I know he's going to see it, I have to see it second.
Right.
I just have to.
Right.
Because I need to know what he's going to do.
And to put your team in a mindset where they understand what they need to do. Hey, if Patrick Mahomes goes down and scores a touchdown, then it's like, hey, you look around in the huddle. Hey, guys, we got to get a touchdown. You're not thinking about field goal. You're not thinking about none of that. You're just thinking about getting 7.
But you shouldn't be thinking that anyway when you playing Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. You should never be thinking about 3 points at any drive.
But here's the difference.
At any point in the game.
It came up with the Chiefs on the 3rd and 4 before the field goal that San Francisco didn't convert. If they're already down 7, they go for it. And it changes your mindset on the 3rd and 4 call.
Absolutely.
You got Christian McCaffrey, who, by the way, was on a milk carton after the first drive. The guy disappeared for so long, particularly in the 3rd quarter. Then they got back to him when the game was in the bounce. Too late. Yeah. You had this dude the whole game. He had 22 carries. I'm running that guy 30 times. He's the NFL's leading rusher. He's got all offseason to recover.
Yeah.
But when it was 3rd and 4, and the Chiefs missed, or the Niners missed, and then they kicked the field goal, if it was already a 7-point game, now you've got 2 plays to get 4 yards.
Yep.
And you know that. So you call different plays. You run a different game. I know that there's really no advantage statistically, at least analytically, in these mock conversions
it was literally
that they tried.
50.5% to 49 point. It was essentially dead even.
And
in
I
that
would
scenario.
say this. I would say what that doesn't figure is your opponent.
The Mahomes factor.
Patrick Mahomes is going to score a touchdown. You want to be able to score a touchdown, and if you need 4 downs to get 10, that's better than 3 downs to get 10. Because if you get the ball first, you're operating under the 3 downs to get 10.
Jay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this to Earl pre-show, and G, I mentioned to you too. I think in hindsight, obviously it's the wrong move. In the moment when they missed the 3rd and 4 in overtime, they ended up kicking the field goal. Jake Moody makes it. I think that's the right play. On paper, if I'm Shanahan, I would have went for it. I know it's crazy, but as soon as Mahomes got the ball, and every time they showed McCaffrey on the bench after they kicked the field goal, he was already crying because he knew what the inevitable was going to happen.
Yeah.
He knew it was over. No, I'm not kidding. Earl.
No, I know what you're saying.
They were up 3 in the Super Bowl in overtime. McCaffrey's crying on the sideline because Patrick Mahomes has the ball. I know it's the wrong play or the wrong move from a coach. It's 3rd and 4. You just got blown up.
But Mike,
I think Mahomes on the sideline, you have to go for it.
Here's the problem. If you get the ball second, you never have to make that decision.
I would have taken it second. I'm with you guys. I'm saying in that situation when
I know.
You're
saying, to me, they goofed up the coin toss, and getting the ball first is just giving Kansas City all the information they need. Do we need 3 or do we need 7? I want to know that before my drive starts. And by the way, they were faced with a 4th and 1, and they converted on a play that.
Great play call.
And when you go back and you look at this, and I love Bosa. You guys know what I think of Bosa.
Yeah.
On that 4th and 1, he bought the run.
He did.
He bought it so hard. If he sniffed out, and I love Tony Romo's comment was, never buy the run in that situation with Patrick Mahomes. If he doesn't buy the run and he plays Mahomes, And it goes to the theory, I'm never going to let anybody's best player beat me. I'm not going to let a pitcher beat me with his best pitch. You know who is their money man. Who are you going to entrust 4th and 1 to? Yeah. I'm playing Mahomes. And if I'm Bosa in the huddle, I'm saying I'm not even looking at a running back. Mahomes is running this ball. If he plays it that way, the Niners have a ring right now.
You're right, because, I don't give a damn how hard Pacheco run. Pat Mahomes is somebody that I'm afraid of. And it's so funny, Jay, because I like what Mike said, but McCaffrey was on the sideline damn near about to cry. As soon as that field goal went in, I said, hey, Siri, play NFL Next Legacy Moment, because we about to witness it.
Yeah.
we about to witness it right here, right now.
That's very funny.
I think everybody in the building knew exactly what was about to go down, man. That dude do not need that much time.
No. You just activated Siri.
You know, one of the craziest things is I was doing a little research for it, and I was just trying to get the feeling of the way, of how you got to go play the game against the Chiefs to win the game. And sometimes it infuriates me because, y'all can look like y'all playing, but y'all going through the motions. Hey, y'all remember Dark Knight Rises?
Yes.
Right? Y'all remember, good movie? Yeah. One of the better Batman movies, right? Christian
Batman
Bale, shout out to him.
Any day.
Now, you remember when Batman was in that pit, right?
Yes.
So he's in that pit.
I already know where you're going.
You see what I'm saying?
I already know where you're going.
He in that pit. I just Googled, I said, how does Batman get out that pit? Now, he had been trying all that time with that rope around his waist, trying to jump up out of that pit. And then what he realized was, Bruce is only able to escape because he does not fear death. The rope used to catch him in actuality, was what held him back from the final jump. Once he learned to make the climb without safety or precautions, he finally embraced death and made it out alive. Now, when you play in the Kansas City Chiefs, you may think you're going all out. But as we sit here and analyze, there's 3rd and 4s where you didn't go all out. There's another 3rd and 4 where you could have won the game. There's other 3rd and 4s where you, instead of going after Pacheco on a dive, you would have said, listen, I got to go tackle Patrick Mahomes. You cannot go into these games in these Super Bowls with this training rope around trying to make a leap for your life. Sometimes you got to take the leap without the rope. And what y'all don't understand
That's a great analogy.
That rope is already around your neck by the time you get to playing it, and all Patrick Mahomes does is kick the chair away.
That's it, man. The rope that was meant to save you ends up being the rope that kills you.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah, no, it's. Can you put that graphic back up, the Chris Brown tweet? Let this marinate for a second. And I'm not ready to call him the GOAT yet. He's still got to do more.
I am.
He's not. That's a prisoner of the moment take.
No, it's a I hate Tom Brady take.
You can hate Tom Brady all you want, but the fact of the matter is that's a prisoner of the moment take. He's on his way, and he is further along in his career than Brady was. Not by much, by the way. But when you look at that,
that's crazy.
Let me tell you what that means for us here in our cozy little city. You getting past that anytime soon? Look at how young the defense is. Look at how wise they draft. They've got a coach who pretty much is on cruise control. He's like a sales rep that isn't making new sales calls. Mm. He's just managing the existing accounts.
Somebody gave him a book of business.
And he read it cover to cover, and now he's living it. And so you've got the perfect storm. You've got a wise head coach that has seen it all. Mm-hmm. He doesn't panic down 10. He's calm in the moment. Mm-hmm. He understands his resources and uses them wisely in appropriate situations. He's got a quarterback who is next level gifted. He is, to me, right now, just below Tom Brady as the GOAT. I mean, you still got to win 5 more to eclipse him. Okay?
Dang. How many Brady got?
Brady's got 7, right?
7-3. Mahomes is 3-1.
Good luck. Good luck. Because you said it earlier, Dan Marino, I think, went to Super Bowl in his second year, not his rookie season. Never got back.
Never sniffed.
And at the time, I remember I think I was a senior in high school or a junior or freshman in college. I just remember thinking, oh my God, the Browns, we're going to have to see this for the next 15 years. Mm-hmm.
Never saw it.
The Browns are never going to make us to a Super Bowl. And they didn't, but not because of Dan Marino. It was because of John Elway. But I look at where he is and where he's positioned, and right now he is fast-tracking to be the GOAT.
Can I give you one Mahomes stat?
Yeah.
Real quick, and then, G, I know you got to go to the bathroom, so you can get up and go to the bathroom real quick.
Yeah.
How in the hell did did you text him?
Yeah. I was like, I have to pee. Like,
We're on the same page. Yeah, we're on the same page. Tom Brady,
Mental telepathy.
in his 23-year NFL career, had 6 fourth-quarter game-winning drives in the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes is now tied with Tom Brady for most all-time.
Impressive.
6.
Now, some of those for the Patriots, they didn't need fourth quarter drives. They
No.
were boat racing teams, and they were up by 10, 12, 14 in the fourth quarter. But a lot of their Super Bowls were very, very close, with the exception of the one he won in Tampa.
Yeah, they were all.
That was a blowout. I think it was like 31-8 or something, 31-9.
The one they beat against the Rams, 13-3, was close, but it was never close. LA
Yeah,
was never
right.
really in that game.
You had on here to grade the Super Bowl, and I want to
we'll do that real quick while G's in the back.
Yeah,
Let's grade the Super Bowl.
This was really weird for me. The game in total, for me, was a B+. I thought it was a little sloppy. The muffed punt, I think, had a lot to do with the outcome of the game. There were the Chiefs fumbled in the red zone. The Niners on their first drive fumbled deep into Kansas City territory. The Mahomes pick was uncharacteristic. The fluky Achilles injury, to me, was like you just lost the heart and soul of your defense.
Yeah.
And they still forced it overtime and could have won this game. There were just a lot of things that I don't want to see in an A+ perfect stellar game. I think of the Kansas City Buffalo game from a couple years ago as the greatest NFL game I'll ever watch. It had tons of points. Defense was optional. But the fact that Mahomes scored the go-ahead points with they got the ball with I think 22 seconds to go. Everybody in Buffalo was celebrating. They're going to the Super Bowl. This was it. And Patrick Mahomes comes out in I think 15 or 22 seconds.
13 seconds.
Boom, 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 game. And I've never seen anything like it. But this game to me was good only because of the last 2 drives in regulation and the overtime.
I got to give it an A. And when I said that, I was making sure that I wasn't having recency bias.
Sure.
But I legit believe this was the best Super Bowl that I personally have
Oh,
ever
wow.
seen.
No kidding.
And mind you, I'm only 36 years old. So
Well, you saw the other overtime Super Bowl.
yeah, I have, but I just thought this was better. I think every component to this was good. I do believe that the muff punt was sloppy, but the Christian McCaffrey turnover, that was the defense forcing that turnover. Pacheco, that was the defense forcing that turnover.
Sure.
The same thing with the Patrick Mahomes pick. That was a great defensive play. I think these are 2 teams that were premier teams in the league all season long, 2 teams that have very good defenses, and you've seen defense take center stage for the better part of the game. And then you've seen a game that was close in score throughout the game, a game that went to overtime and had the league's best player deliver a legacy moment in the game's biggest moment was when you talk about clutch time performances. So to me, I just think every little piece of this made this the best Super Bowl that I saw.
Interesting.
The muff punt was definitely sloppy, but the Christian McCaffrey fumble, the defender forced that.
Yeah.
The same thing for Pacheco, the defender forced that. To me, we were able to see defenses really take center stage in a league where offense is premium, in a league where people just love to see a bunch of points scored. I love the back and forth of the game kind of being like a heavyweight title bout, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to the end of the fourth quarter and overtime where endurance is a big thing, and you could tell teams were tired, right? And it's just every aspect of it was man, this is a damn good football game.
Yeah.
With 2
Turned into
damn good
one.
teams, and then you got the best player in the league come through with a major legacy
Y'all
moment.
like that game?
I did.
See, I gave it a B+. He said the greatest Super Bowl he's ever seen.
Yeah, I gave it an A. I gave it an A.
Yeah.
I gave this a C+.
Why?
It'd be because here's the thing. If I'm gonna have defense, first of all, it was too many 15-yard penalties. I didn't like they were sloppy with the penalty game. Second of all, I just felt that the offense weren't crisp, right? It just looked like everything was sluggish.
Is that because of great defense or just because the offenses were sluggish?
I think the offense was just sluggish. I've seen better defensive plays, defensive efforts where there's more sacks, there's more interceptions, there's more tackles for loss. It just seemed like this game was in slow motion a little bit, in terms of the execution of it. I didn't even like the announcers. I was just I would have rather had Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. I was just like, this is not. Even they was disjointed a little bit.
Yeah,
They
Buck
couldn't
and Eight
find.
tonight are my choice too.
They couldn't find the rhythm in that. So I was just sitting there like, okay, well, I didn't know. I thought that the Kansas City Chiefs offense would have had a little more rhythm, and I think they found it right at just at the right time to get it. And I also did not like the 49ers play style when they was up. They had an opportunity to bury them. They could have put something on them and got them up out of here, and they didn't, and let them hang around.
Yeah, I sent to the text chat that I think I said Kyle Shanahan is fatally flawed. To me, his legacy took a huge hit, because I thought that he had learned from his previous Super Bowl debacles. And when you're up 28-3, and I know he wasn't the head coach, he was the offensive coordinator. When you're up 28-3, and your offense completely disappears the rest of the game, that's what looked like that yesterday to me. When they were up 10-0, I thought, if they just keep doing what they're doing, they're going to win.
Okay, yeah.
And Christian McCaffrey became a memory. Where was Kittle? Did George Kittle miss the flight to Vegas?
Man,
he was MIA.
Kittle was like that every other game. They don't even utilize him.
My man Chris Conley had more receiving yards.
Conley looked great. Here's a problem for Kittle, that this is going to be a stain on his legacy forever. My man's in the locker room getting looked at for an injury. His replacement has the critical holding penalty that cost them dearly. He comes into the game on the very next one. If you're in the locker room, unless it's an equipment issue, like, it's pretty serious. And he's like, Corey texted me, he's like, I will forever question this man's toughness.
Well, what about?
No. It was an equipment thing. It wasn't an injury.
Why did he go to the locker room? They said it was a shoulder.
George Kittle's played through every injury in the book.
They said Kittle is in the locker room with a shoulder.
I thought that was an equipment thing. Kittle's toughness is something
I
that's never
thought
been
that
questioned
too, but
before.
if it was, they never cleaned that up on the broadcast. They went down to is it Evan, who was doing the Chiefs, the Niners, and said Kittle is in the locker room with a shoulder. Okay.
Kittle toughness is two
I
words
thought
that
he was
go
done.
hand in hand. Like, there's no way he missed a play.
Why was he not? His replacement
was the guy,
made the
number
play
9. Yeah.
That pretty much you can say was one of the plays that cost his team a Super Bowl.
I'll say this before Mike move on. Christian McCaffrey is the 49ers' best weapon on offense, right?
Clearly.
And they clearly could have utilized him more than what they did. I don't give a damn about the 22 carries. I told Mike this morning. After Pat Mahomes threw the interception to open up the second half, they got the ball back. The first 6 plays of the game was straight pass plays.
Yep. Straight
pass plays. You got the NFL's leading rusher, the offensive player of the year, a dude who can beat you in so many different ways. And I felt like that's how you keep your foot on their neck. This is how you keep the ball away from Pat Mahomes as much as possible. Yeah. This is how you put more points on the board. Christian McCaffrey is a straight-up dog, right? And that dude should have just been utilized better than what he was.
I thought so, too. It was either the last drive of regulation or their overtime drive. I think it was regulation. I could be wrong. I think every first down was McCaffrey after he disappeared. And they moved the ball right down the field. And in most instances, they were 2nd and 2.
Yeah.
They were 2nd and 3. He was getting big chunks of yardage on first down. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it looked like to start the game, too. Why did you have this huge gap in the middle of the game where you forgot that you had number 23? It was so mystifying to me. I didn't get it. And for me, like I said, Spags, all-time legend, one of the all-time great defensive coordinators. And Kyle Shanahan, although a brilliant offensive mind, I think got lost in his play sheet. I think he got nervous. He looked nervous to me the whole game. And you've now blown 3 10-point leads in the Super Bowl.
It's time to go have a conversation with Dad.
That's going to be in the first paragraph of your resignation.
It's time to go have a conversation with Dad, because Dad would have kept giving the ball to Terrell Davis.
I would think so.
And he would have ran his way to another Super Bowl.
Yeah, I would think so.
It is crazy. Guys, we'll talk Cavs in 1 sec, but we're going to go back to the Browns here before we move on. A quick word from FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and much, much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and shoot your shot. FanDuel, an official partner of the NBA. After watching last night, after watching the entire playoffs, after seeing the entire 2023s in totality, I'll ask you guys a simple question. How close are the Browns to the level of the Kansas City Chiefs?
For me, it's funny.
The choices were they're already there. Small gap, huge gap.
I think it's a small gap, right? And I think that small gap is our quarterback, Deshaun Watson. My man G, he's on Operation Stockpile, right? Go get as much talent as you can, build this roster up as much as you can, like throw it out there and see what happens. I love you. I don't think that's going to work. I'm going to tell you why. Because of Pat Mahomes. You can argue that the San Francisco 49ers probably got the best 53-man roster in football. And it didn't,
I think you're right.
And it didn't matter when it came down to it, right? Mm-hmm. Brock Purdy is a pretty damn good quarterback.
He is.
And it didn't matter because the opposing team, they had that dude. Jay, coming into this game, San Francisco was 2.5-point favorites, right? I told Mike, if Pat Mahomes was the starting quarterback for the 49ers, they would have been double-digit favorites. If Brock Purdy was the starting quarterback for the Chiefs, they probably wouldn't have not even made the Super Bowl.
No, that's very fair.
So when you look at it like that, I know that the Browns already got a talented roster, right? You know what I'm saying? We got more depth across this roster than we had in years past. The difference, the small gap is Deshaun Watson, because I remember a couple years ago when the Texans played the Chiefs in the playoffs and the Texans was up like 24 points. And the commentators was talking about how for the years going forward, we're about to experience Deshaun Watson versus Patrick Mahomes. This is going to be the matchup. So clearly, before all the BS off the field happened, everybody thought Deshaun Watson was more than capable of being that dude. I personally still think he's more than capable of being that dude. So the small gap is Deshaun Watson, because if Deshaun Watson can be that dude, which I believe he can, then we can talk. Then we can make some noise. So you can stockpile all you want, and you can build this fancy roster all you want, and you can have a quarterback that's mid-tier all you want. With this quality roster, it ain't going to mean a damn thing if your quarterback is not him, because Kansas City, they got him at QB.
That was decent. I like what you did right there. You tried.
I thought it was very on point.
I thought it was on point. But you know,
He about to battle rap me.
What you should have seen right here in this rebuttal is, you've seen what it is. You've seen what Patrick Mahomes is. Now, you can imagine and wish and hope Deshaun Watson is there, but right now he's not better than Patrick Mahomes. Right now, Joe Burrow's not better than Patrick Mahomes. Right now, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson is not better than Patrick Mahomes. The problem with people is they try to do this. They talk themselves into that their quarterback is on that level. They continuously talk themselves as if their quarterback can go hand to hand with Patrick Mahomes, but don't realize that they also got the best head coach and play caller in the league as well. Now you have two things that you got to overcome. The Cleveland Browns come out here with these rusty butter knives every year. These rusty butter knives, and they got Excalibur just slicing and killing demons and dragons. And we come out with a spoon and a fork and say, yeah, know what we got? We got Amari Cooper, and we got Cedric Tillman. We always saying what we got. Right now, quiet as kept, the Browns need to worry about how they're going to take care of C.J. Stroud, and he's the underboss. You see, he's the underboss. He made you look crazy. And until you can get to a point where you are on the same echelon as talent, you don't have the same talent as the Ravens, you don't have the same talent offensively as the Bengals, you don't arguably have the same talent as the doggone Chargers. And we know what the top of the food chain is. Operation Stockpile is not about just sitting back hoping Deshaun Watson gets to a point, right? You know what they did in World War II? They knew that the United States had a Navy. They knew the United States and the Allies had more manpower. But guess what they still did? They still built that atomic bomb on the backside. Because they said, what if the trenches break? What if Hitler goes and goes out over and he does beat Stalin in the winter? And then what we talking about? You better have you something in your back pocket. And guess what? Even after they got rid of Hitler in World War II, Guess what? Pearl Harbor still happened, and guess what they had in their back pocket? Operation Stockpile moves ahead, full steam ahead.
That was cute.
In your analogy, I
cute.
think Patrick Mahomes is the atomic
Yes,
weapon.
he's there.
Now, both of these, very, very good. I'm enlightened. But let me ask you guys this. So what was your ultimate answer? Are they there? Are they almost there? Is there a big gap?
Oh, it's a big gap between him and everybody.
Right. Okay. So the Browns there's a big gap between the Browns and the Chiefs.
Yes.
I say small gap.
So I'm kind of torn. I'm almost in the middle, and here's why.
I'll give you, Jay, I'll give you a third option. You could be a medium gap, just
That's
for the
where
sake
I
of
am.
this. You could be a medium gap.
How would you
Really,
guys
Mike?
feel?
Jay
How
wears
would you
extra
guys
medium, so it's only
gap?
fair
just
that Jay's
sounds-
going to be a medium gap.
That's real palsy. It is. It is.
So let me ask you
You're
guys
welcome,
this.
Jay.
If tomorrow we wake up and we see the headline, NFL shocker, Browns trade Mahomes, or Browns trade Watson to Kansas City for Mahomes. Like there's 0% chance that would ever happen. But let's, for this little discussion, pretend that Mahomes is in Cleveland. Same roster, we have Mahomes. What's the gap now?
We're the better team.
We're there.
I still think the Browns lose.
Njoku and Kelsey. Kelsey clearly gets the nod, but the gap is way shrunk. Their running game, Pacheco or Chubb? I give us the, now I'm assuming Chubb is going to be superhuman
the
in his
nod to
rehab
Chubb.
and he's going to be Nick Chubb again.
Okay.
I give the advantage to Chubb. Offensive line, when we're healthy, I'll take ours. Thank
Okay.
you. Top receiver. Now Kelsey's their top receiver. So you've got the gap at tight end is really, really small. Cooper gets the edge for their number one receiver. Defense. I mean, they got Chris Jones. We got Myles Garrett. I'll take Myles Garrett. I think you're right. I think if you switch quarterbacks, we're there. Now, that's the biggest if of all. That's the, if your grandma had wheels, she'd be a wheelchair.
We're forgetting one thing. They got Andy Reid and we got Ken Dorsey.
Now, listen.
But we also got Kevin Stefanski too.
Are y'all running
I was gonna
bootlegs?
get
No,
to
I'm
that.
just saying we still got.
Y'all run bootlegs?
I'm not saying about running the bootlegs, but you can't make it seem like that Kevin Stefanski is not a great offensive mind, right?
He's the last two out of the last 4 years he's been
coach of the year. We don't know what
there's
Ken
a
Dorsey
gap.
is.
Look, I'm not going to be naive and say there's not a gap.
It's a gap.
Andy Reid is the Belichick of
Offense.
this era.
Yes.
He's a guru. He's taken two teams to Super Bowls, two different teams. That's pretty rare for a coach to do that with two different teams. So he's clearly teaching the master class. But I think Stefanski is one of the star pupils. I think Stefanski can be Andy Reid 15 years from now. Remember, Andy Reid in Philadelphia was looked at as like this. For those of you that don't remember, he's a really good coach but can't get over the playoff hump. Remember those years?
I mean,
And Philly finally said, we're going to wash our hands of this guy.
four NFC championship games, one Super Bowl.
But he couldn't win.
But I'll put I'll put it like this, right? If you strip Deshaun Watson from the Cleveland Browns and Patrick Mahomes from the Kansas City Chiefs, the Browns still got a top 5 roster. The Chiefs roster is probably bottom towards like 8 through 10, right? Because they got Chris Jones, but they got George Karlaftis. I apologize if I'm saying his name wrong.
Yeah.
You still got Nick Bolton. You got Trent McDuffie. You got Ladarius Sneed.
No, it's a nice defense.
So you still got some ballers. But when I look at the Cleveland Browns roster minus Deshaun Watson, it's still a top 5 roster. And so, like, when you talk Operation Stockpile, I'm not saying I totally disagree with you, but the 49ers, talented roster. Browns, talented roster. Chargers, talented roster, right? All these teams got talented rosters, but none of these teams got Pat Mahomes. And unless you got a quarterback that can bridge that gap between Pat Mahomes and anybody else, your roster could be talented all day long and it won't matter.
Your point that resonates with me the most was and I had someone tell me this before, gosh, I can't remember what Super Bowl it was. It was one of the Super Bowls where the quarterbacks were wildly mismatched. You had one where
Brady, Nick Foles?
It might have been Trent Dilfer. I can't remember what the matchup was.
Well, they had the Brady, Nick Foles. When Philadelphia lost Carson Wentz and Foles was in, there was the same discussion. If you switch quarterbacks,
Yeah.
it'd be like a 21-point line.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, what decides Super Bowls?
Quarterbacks.
It's quarterbacks. I mean, it's always been quarterbacks. So if quarterbacks decide Super Bowls, and you do your little exercise of, well, let's just switch quarterbacks and see where we are. Purdy's fine. Purdy is a very, very, very good quarterback. Purdy didn't throw an interception. Mahomes did. But what happened when Mahomes threw the interception in 100 million living rooms across America? What did everybody say? Oh my God, that's a unicorn. We never see that. Mahomes just made a mistake. What was being said in hundreds of millions of living rooms worldwide when he led the Chiefs to the game-winning touchdown? That's what I expect from him.
That's what I expect.
So here's the level that you have to get to. It's like golf. I'll watch the golf tournament, and I'll see these guys making great shots, and then I'll say, I can make that shot. It's not about your good shots. It's about your bad shots. Every weekend golfer has holed out from 125 yards. But what about the other 99 shots out of 100 that you were 125 out? The pro is within 8 feet every time. Your spray chart, you got 10 in the trap, 15 missed the fairway, only 10 are on the green. It's not about your great shots. It's about minimizing your bad shots. And to me, after watching Patrick Mahomes do it again, do what we expected him to do again when he was put in that opportunity, Deshaun Watson can do it.
Yeah.
We saw it for a half against Baltimore. But since he's been here, we've had 21 other halves of football. So he's the weekend golfer that hit a hole-in-one against Baltimore, but in some of those other ones, he missed the green, he missed the fairway, he was in the trap. When he was on the green, he wasn't within makeable distance. Mahomes is spraying the pin every time.
I think one of the things that we get in too much context with is trying to figure out, is he worth the money that he's getting. So what we want to do is say, well, okay, your franchise quarterbacks make everybody better, so let's just stay right here and you make us better. We'll see if you are worth 230. But the problem is, you're gonna have to beat. This is Mortal Kombat. You gotta beat 3 out of 4 to even see Mahomes. Like, we're not talking about going against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Obviously, we're in the same conference. We're just talking about what you need to do in order to just get to the bowl. So you telling me you got to see Josh Allen, and we done seen Josh Allen play ridiculous. We done seen Patrick Mahomes play ridiculous. Joe Burrow is out of his mind. Lamar Jackson. I done seen Aaron Rodgers throw the ball through 10 people's bodies.
Justin Herbert.
And C.J. Stroud just put that work on you. My thing is, if you...
Tua.
And he got 2 receivers.
It's the quarterback gauntlet.
That run like cheetahs and deers. And we sitting here still, 3 years into Deshaun Watson, still trying to champion the guys of this world, the Bells and the Schwartz and David and Njoku. And you just said that they had Kittle, no factor. Debo Samuel, no factor. Ayuk had a couple catches, and you had Christian McCaffrey. And let me remind you, if 5 years ago you would have said the San Francisco 49ers would have had Chase Young and Bosa, you'd have said, how the heck do somebody even get? We ain't got none of that. And we still trying to get rid of it.
I'm just saying, I don't give a damn about how much money Deshaun Watson made. The hell with the 230. I can care less about the contract at this point. Whatever, it is what it is. I know Deshaun Watson is fully capable of being an elite quarterback.
His great shot is elite.
Right.
But what about his other shots? Because with Mahomes, his bad shots are still workable. He threw an interception.
That's true.
He's so damn good that he made up for it.
Jay, this is my thing. I know it's been a while since we've seen Deshaun Watson as one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Maybe it's Cleveland Browns bias. Maybe it's Deshaun bias because I've been a fan since Clemson. I don't know if it's just me being biased. I believe in my heart the dude still got what it takes to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And so, like I said, like for me, I can care less about the contract. Last year, he showed some moments. Was it the best? No. But I know he's fully capable of being better than what we saw last year. And I'm not even saying last year was bad. I'm just saying that's not what I expected from Deshaun Watson. So with that being said,
he has not lived up to expectations.
So with that being said, I trust that he's gonna hit the ground running, and I trust that he's gonna do his part so that the last time we saw him, 14 for 14 against the Baltimore Ravens, I pray to God that's where he picks up from, and he just keep this thing rolling.
Because if he does, we have a chance.
Then we right there. We got a chance. And that's why I think it's a small gap. I don't think it's a major gap. I think the talent is here. I trust Andrew Berry to continue to add talent to this team. I think the small gap is Deshaun Watson. And if Deshaun Watson improve his play, we right there with
It's
Kansas
consistency.
City.
It's not the highest quality. It's
Yeah.
the high bar he can reach.
Yeah.
But you consistently need to be up there.
I'm going to take it from him. He said this. I didn't say it. He said when he asked for it. He was on this podcast. He said, "What's up, T. Higgins?"
Yeah.
That means that means as a man. Last year, when we talked about going out and get DeAndre Hopkins, he wasn't definitive like that. He said, if DeAndre come, I like what we got in our roster. They said it at a golf outing. I downloaded it. I said, okay, well, he may not be that interested in DeAndre Hopkins, but it's early now. And he said, T. Higgins, come on.
See, that's out of everyone's
Yeah, I was just
control.
about to say, that's a
If
different
the Bengals
conversation.
Franchise him,
Hey, no, I get that you might not get T. Higgins. What he's saying to you is, I'm technically not that comfortable with the roster. And we may not got T. Higgins, but I need another playmaker. Give me something else. Give me someone else. It ain't got to be T, but I need a little something else to get where I'm going.
You think Andrew Berry go get it for him?
He better.
No, I'm saying I know he better, but do you think he'll go get it for him?
My hopes is Andrew Berry does what he did with defensive linemen. He understood that that's what the place he needed to go.
He did a good job
and
up
he did
front.
a good job of doing that.
I'm gonna give you a definitive yes. Andrew Berry ain't shown me yet that he sees a hole or error or something that can prove on his team, and he's failed to address it, or at least attempt to address
Well,
it.
he has failed to address the wide receiver.
He might have. I don't think he's failed to address it. He just didn't hit on it. Like he's
Well, then
tried.
that's failing to address it.
That's
when you go Bell and Schwartz in back-to-back third rounds. There was another third-round bust in there. Who was it?
Well, Cedric Tillman he's here, but he can get a year.
Well, I'm not ready to call him a bust yet.
Yeah.
But the early reports are not good.
He just got to get that position right. He definitely need to do better at getting that position right.
Yeah.
I just know that if he knows, because I think we all agree, we need another weapon at wide receiver.
Oh.
And I think whether it be draft or free agency, I think he'll find a way to get another weapon in
I'm
here.
going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to
Yeah.
say definitively yes, I trust him. But to your point, the two glaring weaknesses after 2 years ago was the D-line and the wide receiver spot.
Took care of the D-line.
He took care of the D-line. Now,
Need
he
that.
went Operation Stockpile.
Yeah,
he
I
didn't say, let me sprinkle a little bit of magic fairy dust on the
got
D-line
a lot of 'em.
and a little bit on the wide receiver, because sometimes when you serve two masters, you serve none. So what he did is said, I got a 2-year plan. Check on the defensive line.
Got it.
Everybody's looking at you now on WR. You better get that right, and you don't have draft capital to do it.
It's kind of crazy.
So you've got to do it through free agency, and that's limited. The top guys at the top of the food chain are likely going to be franchise tagged. And so now you're looking at a situation of you've already dropped down a tier. And if you look at it with DL, they didn't go out and sign, they didn't make a trade for Chase Young.
No.
Right.
They could have.
Right.
They didn't. They went sort of middling, but they went stockpile. Let me bring 5 dudes in here and see what we get.
And they did a good job of doing that.
At wide receiver, I don't think that's going to work, because you can only put 3 of them on the field at once, unless you're, running some crazy offense at the end of the game. So you need the middling guys. They do nothing for me. I need somebody that moves my needle at wide receiver. If he gets that right, and that's a big if, and if Deshaun Watson can make his round of golf look like the hole he played against Baltimore,
Then you there.
now we're there. Now
And that's
we're
all.
there.
And that's all I'm saying.
But those
I think
those
he
are
can
two
get there.
big ifs.
They are.
But
They are.
If both of those hit, the United commercial that aired during the Super Bowl last night. Hey, how many times does pop culture predict the future? How many times? It wouldn't stun you if next January everybody's saying, "Remember this United commercial from last year?"
Yep.
He was right.
Pretty cool.
That would be fun.
I want a Midwest Super Bowl so bad.
I do too.
I want the
I
Browns
want
versus
Detroit and
Lions
Cleveland.
so bad.
Man,
Like,
that would be great.
That would be a
I
lot
would
of
take
fun.
Detroit and Chicago too, Cleveland and Chicago.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Either way would be a lot of fun. Spent the first hour on Browns. If you want more Browns football content, make sure you check out the Ultimate Browns Show tonight, 5 o'clock with G. Bush. The Ultimate shows have launched. Everyone but the Guardians is up and running. Ultimate 216 made its debut last week. Ultimate Cavs will be coming at you on Tuesday, tonight, and on Fridays, the Ultimate Browns Show with G. Bush. To make sure y'all tune in, tap in, enjoy.
Are we
G.
going
Bush,
to do
who
an
you
Ultimate
got?
Guardians show?
There will be an Ultimate Guardian show. It's just we're waiting until spring training, until it's closer to the season to launch that. But Ultimate Guardian show coming. G. Bush, who's on the?
Somebody asked
Who the
me
legend
yesterday
tonight?
about it.
So tonight,
what?
It's coming. Don't worry.
tonight we got. Speaking of Lions, we got Lions legend Jerry Ball, Browns legend Jerry Ball. We'll be talking about a little defensive line play.
Nice.
If you do want your questions, you want to hit Jerry Ball, get them at the hotline. Hotline will be. I'll actually tweet that out. And we do have a Browns hotline where you can leave your questions and comments.
Jerry was a big run stopper.
Yeah, he
wasn't
was. Mm-hmm.
He was.
Leroy
massive. He took up a lot of space.
Leroy had a great story about him. Go check that interview. He had a great story about Jerry Ball.
Real quick before we get to the Cavs, your last episode, you was clean. You had the glasses on, like you looked like you was sitting there at the Hip Hop Awards. You know what I'm saying, giving your acceptance speech.
Yeah, man. Somebody said I would look like somebody from Jagged Edge. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what I'm gonna wear tonight.
Can't take another heartbreak here.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm gonna have on tonight. You know what I'm saying. I might put a cape on. Like I might be Dracula today. Just a cape. You know what I'm saying. Like
Now, do you do that from home?
yes.
So you have your New York City skyscape in the background? Is that your home?
Yeah, that's my house.
fresh.
I sold it. Like I sell out. So I like put that's on the wall. That don't come down.
Is that wallpaper? Is that like a fathead?
Yeah, no. It's just like it's
a mural.
It's a cityscape mural.
It's a
on my
giant
wall.
mural. Yeah.
Who hung that for you?
Me.
You do wallpaper?
Yeah, me and my mom, my agent, my agent, my stylist, and
Peel
social
and
media.
stick, or was it paste? You had to paste.
Do you had to get the little glue to paint? Yeah, glue game.
Wow.
Yeah.
He said
Did a good job.
My glue
Did a
game
good job.
stupid.
I just wallpapered our powder
guys.
room at our house.
Hey,
I
and
love wallpaper.
I do too. I'm a
I
big
love
wallpaper fan. It'll change the whole look of a room.
Instantly. Changes the whole feel of a house or a room.
It does. One note will go to the Cavs, but Andy Reid, speaking to reporters, just said, and this was 2 minutes ago, had they won the coin toss, they would have kicked. So they wanted the ball second regardless. So
Of course.
they got what they wanted.
You know why? Because he's been thinking about this for 2 weeks.
He had, and they said that the Chiefs were prepared and ready to go for two if that happened. So
The Chiefs would have gone for
Chiefs
two.
would have gone for two had it played out like that. Yeah. So would have
I
been.
love
Would have
that.
been. I mean, that would have been all the
love
drama.
that. And you
Yeah,
know what?
all
So I don't know what they call it, but a lot of those plays in those situations are called glass breakers, like break glass in case of emergency. And every coach has 2 or 3 of them that they never use. They're just in their hip pocket for
Just
those
keep them
critical
tucked.
moments. And Andy Reid is so good at glass breakers. He has one for every regular season game, so it changes every game. And then he has completely different ones that you've never seen for that situation
Well,
right there. A 4th and 1 to win the
last
game.
thing,
Something like that.
The game-winning touchdown was the exact same play they used against the Eagles last season, which they did not run since the
All
last
year.
Super Bowl.
It's
Corn dog.
beautiful.
Hadn't run corn dog. Exact same fake motion. San Francisco traded off in the defensive secondary,
Made the
just
wrong
like
switch.
Philadelphia did, which led to Mecole Hardman getting open.
That's
All right,
Andy
let's
Reid.
talk a little Cavs, guys. Over the last 18 games, Cleveland is 17-1. And we've talked about the hot streak. We've talked about what they've done. But I was doing some digging, and I found this stat from Dork Sports, which is, it sounds like a joke Twitter handle. It's a very legit. They do awesome work. If
That's
you don't follow
McNuggets'
Dork
burner
Sports.
account.
Phenomenal.
That's your burner account. Tell
I
the
wish,
truth.
listen, they go deep into the archives. Very, very well worth a follow, though. In this 18-game stretch for the Cavs, they have been outscoring their opponents by 303 points in totality.
nuts.
18 games, 303 points. It's only happened 5 other times in NBA history since Dork Sports has been tracking.
Wow.
The Bucks have done it twice. In 1971-72 season, that's when they had Kareem. In 2020 and 2021, that was Giannis's MVP when they blew out everybody in the regular season. How about the 72-win Bulls? The first year of the
That
Steph
was not
KD
their
Warriors.
championship year, though, was it?
72
No, the 2021.
for the Bucks.
Didn't the Lakers win that year?
No, that was the Bucks championship.
It was the Bucks championship? That's
Yeah.
what I'm asking.
Yeah, but yeah.
So the
Right.
Lakers won 21-22. Sure about that?
Yeah, because that COVID year was the year after COVID.
Mm-hmm. Well, COVID was COVID-19, and then 2020 was the year of the shutdown.
That's not their championship year. Bucks won the following year, but
That's
that was
what
the
I
year
thought.
that they won the regular
The only reason
season.
I bring that up is because I'm not sure the Bucks won the year Kareem did it either.
Regardless of whether they done it or not, those are 5 of the greatest teams in the history of the NBA. Kawhi and Duncan. Take it back up, Ant. Steph and KD Warriors, the first year, they won a championship for sure. 72 Bulls won for sure. 71-72 Bucks, I'm 99% sure they won. I'll pull that up in 1 sec.
Okay.
And then the Bucks in 2021, 2020.
I'm just trying to figure out,
did
is
not.
this some sort of indicator of
4 of the 5, according to
championship
Dork
success?
Sports, 4 of the 5 had won championships. 303 in 18 games is a feat that is very rarely accomplished.
It's nuts.
That's not just beating teams on a nightly basis. That's beating the living crap out of teams.
Right.
And not all those teams were 17-1. Their one loss was to Milwaukee. They ended up beating them twice in that stretch. It is not only one of the best stretches in NBA history, it's the best stretch in Cavs history. And you can take 180 from me real quick. Of any stretch in 18-game history for the Cavs, their best 18-game plus-minus was 293. That was during
Who
the
figured this out? Do you know how
Dork
much
Sports.
time
This
that
is all from Dork
takes?
Sports, so shout out Dork Sports.
God.
Do you think the Cavs, so the question is essentially, are the Cavs getting enough credit for how good they've been over this 18-game stretch? It's the regular season. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be playing like this in the postseason. This doesn't guarantee a championship by any means.
No, but in the moment, is it being properly
Or,
celebrated?
exactly. Are we giving enough credit to the Cavs for how damn good they've been
No.
since the middle of December?
No, but I'll say this, man. Nipsey Hussle. Everybody knows Nipsey Hussle
Yep.
was, right? Nipsey Hussle got a famous line that says, man, I don't even trip on the credit. I just keep paying the dues. Like, sometimes you won't get the credit for the work that you put in. Just keep paying the dues, right? The Cavs got big dreams, big goals. And, you know, get to the playoffs, win a playoff series, possibly get to the Eastern Conference Championship, and then see what happens from there. But, you know, locally or nationally, if people are not giving you the quote-unquote credit, so what, man? Just keep paying your dues. You know who you are. You know what your goals are. You know what you're trying to accomplish. The hell with the credit, man. Keep going out there every single night. Keep playing hard. Keep doing what you're doing.
No, we're not giving them their just desserts, and there's a couple reasons. One is, you know, whether we like it or not, we've been jaded. To me, we've had the best basketball player ever to play in this city. And when you have the best basketball player ever to play basketball, it's like saying if you go to Chicago and say, hey, the Bulls are in 5th place, are we giving them enough credit? They ain't trying to give you no credit. Like, they saw 6 championships. No, they're not going to give you no credit. They may, even with Derrick Rose was there, like, they was good, but they was still not saying that they was nowhere near what the Bulls was. I think the same thing goes into what we talk about here. We went to the finals 4 years in a row. We did win a championship. We did play the Golden State Warriors, who probably had one of the greatest teams ever assembled. So it's kind of difficult for me to be like, all right, let me look at Max Strus and, you know, some of the guys in Isaac Okoro and be like, oh, my goodness, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. No, the only way we're going to give them credit is if they establish something and become consistent in what they're doing, not just a flash in the pan. So if they can go this year, ball out, say, for instance, get to Eastern Conference Finals and lose in 6-7 games, now they got some money in the bank. Now we know, okay, this is what this team is like. They play hard. They're not gonna fold in the playoffs. It's just about making shots.
That's nasty. That's a nasty shot.
That is a nasty shot. I love the Nipsey Hussle line, by the way.
And by the way, just to clarify, all 5 of those teams did win championships.
Yes,
we actually had our years wrong on the COVID year.
Right, I was
COVID
just
was
gonna go back to
1920. All 5 of those teams on that list, along with the Cavs,
Right.
who are yet to win a championship, are
Right.
NBA champions.
Now, look, so history tells us that is an indicator of winning a championship. That's been done 5 times in NBA history, and 5 times they've won the Larry O'Brien. That's great. Here's why they're not getting their credit. We saw this movie last year in the regular season. This one's a little bit better, but we saw it. And then, when all eyes were on them for 4 games, they laid a major egg. They were the disappointment in the playoffs for me, because I knew that Knicks were a tough matchup for us. I thought if we lost, it's going to go 5 games, and all the games would be close. Mm-hmm. I couldn't figure out what happened to that regular season Cavs team once the playoffs started. So we talk about Patrick Mahomes, and you know what you're going to get. You know. He's going to be steady. He's going to be great. When the moment is its biggest, he'll be his best. Mm-hmm. Last year, when the moment was biggest for the Cavs, they were their worst. So I'm not going to buy fool's gold again. I'm not saying they're going to flame out again. What I'm saying is I put my hand on the stove last playoff season, and I still have scar tissue on my hand. I got burned. I'm not willing to touch that stove again until I'm sure that it's not still red hot. So this Cavs team is doing all they can do in the regular season. They're not even the 1 seed. But they've looked really, really good over the last 2 months of the season. I need to see it in April. I need to see it when the real lights shine. I need to see this same Cavs team. If they continue to play like this, I think they have to be considered a championship caliber team. I'm not predicting a championship, but when you're a 2 at the All-Star break, in most situations, you're a legitimate contender. So go win in the postseason, and you'll have my attention.
Let me play devil's advocate, though. Last year, they played a specific style of play. Last year, they was way less physical. They looked like they was way less. They was way less aggressive. And now they did some changes. They went and got some shooters, right? Those shooters have paid dividends. The guys that was playing weak last year, not playing so weak this year. Your superstar has showed up and is playing better than he played last year. And you was the 4 seed last year. Now you're the 2nd seed.
Well, they're only, if I'm not mistaken, they're only a game from the 5th.
So they're only
Right?
game from the 5th.
I think they're 2 or 3 games up from the 5th now, but it's
pretty close,
It's
though.
tight.
If they, and I saw Boston play last night. Boston got, a lot of guys. They got Holiday, you got Porzingis. They still got Horford, obviously Brown and Tatum and White and all those guys. Like, if they didn't get to a point where you 2 games out of first place and the Celtics already have won 40 games, the Cavs got the 2nd best record in the league. That has to, for a team that is young, that got embarrassed, doesn't that show you that they figured something out?
I mean, I think that it's funny because I said this yesterday when me and Mike went live. I believe in humility before honor. And usually before you kind of reach the pinnacle, reach your goal, or become successful, you go through some hardships. Sure. You go through some growing pain. You go through some tough times. And people don't realize in those moments while you're going through it, how necessary those moments are. Everything that the Cavaliers went through last year, even though it pissed us off to see our team go through it and it frustrated us, it was necessary. Because you got to go through those growing pains in order for you to grow, become better, learn from your mistakes, and then become ultimately who you believe that you can become. And I think last year was huge for the Cavaliers. We might not have realized it or understood it in the moment, but you see it now. I'm going to read this quote real quick. And Jared Allen said this to Cleveland.com 3 days ago. He said, "We may not look like the toughest, but when you start messing with the dogs, you're going to get bit." We talk all the time about athletes hearing the noise and seeing everything, right? I talk to the point of, I don't think that's a problem. I think what you do with it is what matters. This is a team that heard all the noise and read everything about how soft they was, how unprepared they was, how the lights was too bright, how they got to their biggest moment and they failed. They seen all of that. And you see the results of that right now show up in their play, show up in their effort, show up in just the little things that they do. And I'm loving it. And I'm to your point, right? Like, we're local Cleveland media. We might not be covering the Cavs or giving them all the attention, and they 17-1. Man, just keep doing what y'all doing. We see y'all.
Don't worry
but
about
we're not ready to really just but just keep doing what you're doing. And trust me, when the time come, we're gonna give y'all all y'all flowers that y'all earned.
You get what you deserve. And if they I need more than 1 playoff win too.
Yeah.
If you're the 2, I need to see 2 playoff wins. If you end up being the 1, I want to see you in the finals.
You're talking about series, not simple games, right?
Yeah. I mean,
just so you said 2 playoff wins. Just want to clarify.
no, I mean series
wins.
yeah,
not-
I don't mean 2 playoff wins still get you bounced in the first round.
that's why I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, no,
I want to make sure you're on the record
there's
with that.
steps to it. Everybody knows that there's a progression to success in the NBA. And you're right, you do have to walk through coals to get to where you want to be. Last year was really tough. The coals I was hoping to walk through would be a nice win in the first round, and then you lose in the last game of round 2. We didn't get to round 2. We won 1 playoff game, and I love that quote. Was that from Allen?
Yeah.
I love that quote. And the reason I love that quote is because you don't have to be the bully to be successful.
Right.
But you can't be successful if you don't strike back when the bully hits you.
Just don't be the punk.
Don't be the punk.
Just don't be the
And
punk.
last year, we were the punk.
That's it.
And so you don't have to be aggressive. You can be passive-aggressive. But when the Cobra strikes, you have to strike back, or you're the punk.
I think one thing it'll be like, and let's be honest, man, we Cleveland fans or whatever the case may be, we ain't done enough living and done enough winning to be jaded. Like, I'm sorry. Like if you want to be a Golden State Warriors fan and be jaded, like, oh, you know what, I'm just so tired of winning these championship games. I have nothing for it regular season. That's cool. We can be mad, but we can't be jaded. 17 out of your last 18 games means something. Like, you're on the right track. You're doing some things. And I've always said, I want to see you develop people. And guess what? JB is developing people. Sam Merrill's been developed. Isaac Okoro has gotten better. Jared Allen is playing better. Donovan Mitchell's having his best year of his life, it seems like. Now, I think the Cavs are over the whole overarching thing. Are they good or are they not? I think now they're to the place where now we can start talking about the minutia of, okay, what's the best way to play? You know, we was on the radio the other day, and Earl just threw, I mean, he just poisoned the water supply. We was on the barbershop.
I didn't.
Don't
listen to him, Jay.
He said he got Darius Garland coming off the bench. All these people agree with him. Let's
give it more context to that, because here's the funny part about it, right? I was on this set last Monday, and I said I felt like, you know, like possibly bringing Darius Garland off the bench. I got ripped to shreds for it, right?
Why?
I don't know, right? Ripped to shreds. I say the same thing Saturday, and everybody is agreeing. All I was saying was that I thought the Cavaliers made the right move by not kind of making any moves at the trade deadline.
Right.
I came around to the point that Jason has always made. All the Cavs need is experience and time to grow. My point now is, if we're talking about what we seen last year in the playoffs, right, and we don't want a repeat performance, because the Cavs are a lock to make the playoffs.
Yes.
You got the rest of this season to experiment, to tinker with different lineups, to see how many different lineup variations that you can exploit.
I said that a couple weeks ago.
At the same time, you're trying to get Darius Garland going. You know that you're going to need Darius Garland come to playoffs, right? I think Darius Garland is a very talented basketball player, for those who don't think I just don't like him. The dude is talented. If I'm JB Bickerstaff, you Darius Garland. Let's have a conversation, Jay. I know you a max player. I know what you're capable of. I know you're capable of 20-5. I understand that you're trying to get yourself back into game shape. I understand that you're even trying to work on becoming a better facilitator at the point guard position. But right now, we got so much talent. We got so many different people playing well. Let me see if I can bring you off the bench for the next 3 or 4 games. That way, when you come in with that second unit, the world is yours. You still going to get your 25, 28 minutes a game. You know, let's see if we can get the numbers up in the points per game. You're doing pretty well with the assists. The Cavs was plus 19 with him on the court, you know, the last game they played. Darius, this is not nothing permanent. This is not nothing long-term. I literally just want to see if this works now, so that way if we're in a situation come playoffs, I know that I got this glass breaker lineup that I can go to if I need it.
So there's 2 scenarios that I'll answer that with, okay? When Travis Kelce wasn't on the field yesterday in a critical moment in the game, how did he respond?
Oh, passion. He was
He
pissed.
damn near knocked his coach over,
Yeah, he was
right?
pissed.
He was furious. I'll go to another one. When Drew Brees, who was a Super Bowl winning quarterback and will be a Hall of Fame quarterback, was taken out of the game because they had a backup quarterback that could do things that he can't. How did Drew Brees handle that?
I really don't remember that.
Class and dignity. Never once did he go to Sean Payton and say, "What are you taking me out of the game for? I'm a Hall of Famer. I've won a ring. I put a ring on your finger." And he said, well, in this particular instance, he never responded that way. That conversation may have been had, by the way, behind closed doors. Likely did. And here's the way Sean Payton probably answered it. I believe there are certain situations in the game that call for certain solutions. He's not a better quarterback than you. He does one thing definitively better than you do. When that's needed, I owe it to the other 52 guys to make sure I got the best player in the game at that spot, at that time. Now, they never took that to a Super Bowl.
Right.
And I only bring that up because I think the key to the Cavs' success in the playoffs is how Darius Garland responds to this. Is he Travis Kelce? Or Is he? And now look, Kelsey won the Super Bowl. He got 8 catches for
82 yards after having one catch for one target.
So it worked because the coach clearly got him more involved. And Drew Brees never won a Super Bowl with Taysom Hill.
Yeah, but full disclosure again, since we're doing this here, I just want to say I think that Darius Garland is a very talented basketball player.
And it's not Taysom Hill, by the way. I'm not making that comparison.
No, I'm just saying because when I come with these outside the box takes and try to be creative, people think that I don't like Darius Garland or I'm just trying to send him to the bench or we don't know basketball. No, you got to be creative. You got to think outside the box.
Especially in the playoffs.
People have this mindset of, I'm afraid to try something different or I'm afraid to tinker with this and tinker to that. I don't operate in fear. That's not who I am.
No.
And so, of course, my mind is going to go, I need to get you going. I know I need you, right? I love the fact that you're becoming a better facilitator. I love the fact that you're not forcing jump shots when you know you're not in game shape, right? You finding other ways to have an impact on the game. But I need Darius Garland to still go get a bucket when it's time to get a bucket. It's just that simple.
And what happens ultimately, I think, is if I love the way you phrased it, you're going to be the king of the second unit. When the second unit is out there, you're going to be going against the second unit in all likelihood. And if the other coach decides not to put his second unit on the floor when you're on the floor, we're going to wear his starters out. So you create a real headache for the opposing coach if you're bringing Garland off the bench and there's no rest for your starters. You want to go ahead and live in that universe where you put a second-team guy on Darius Garland. He's going to get smoked, and now your second unit is definitively better than any NBA's second unit because you've got a first-unit guy leading it. One last thing before you go, G. I believe that I know it's outside the paradigm thinking, and it's definitely not the way you want to do it. Per that standard, the Cavs have never played better in the regular season. Not even with LeBron James for all those years were they plus 303 in an 18-game stretch. How big of a factor was Darius Garland in those last 18 games?
I mean, they haven't lost since he's come back.
He was out for how many of those 18 games? 12?
Yeah, I think they're 6.
So 2/3 of that stretch, Garland wasn't on the floor. And when Garland has played, he's clearly not, I mean, he's had moments, but he hasn't looked like Darius Garland pre-injury. That's because the Cavs in his absence figured something out. And what they figured out is this is what makes them the absolute best team they can be. I hope Darius Garland throws his arms around that and accepts that. I'm not saying you bring him off the bench all of the time, but there will be matchups where the other team's second unit is at a distinct disadvantage if Garland's on the floor.
It was so funny because I literally said just 3 or 4 games, just to experiment. But again, to me, people get so outraged because they don't know how to think outside the box. People want to stick with the status quo.
Status quo got us bounced.
People are more concerned about public perception than they is experimenting and trying different ways to get to your ultimate goal.
Right.
Again, I don't operate in my fears. I don't give a damn what the masses think, how they feel about things, right? You got to be willing to step outside of yourself and at least try something different. And if you're not willing to try something different, then that says a lot about you. That's a lot of stubbornness, right? And again, it's just a situation. 9 times out of 10, the man probably is never coming off the bench anyway, right?
Right.
It probably won't happen because even in the NBA, they're going to say this is a max player.
Sure.
He can't be coming off the bench. But for everybody who feels like it's the worst idea in the world, I would tell you, man, you got to learn how to think outside the box and stop going about everything like you do every single day.
So the poll got 27,000 views. Now, they was on you. They was liking it at first. But as you know, as time goes on,
sure.
You know, so 59% of the people with this tweet.
What poll are you talking about?
This poll that Tagboard refuses to show the results, but this is the poll that G put up. There's actual results to this poll, which G will read you, but this was the tweet he put with the options yes or no.
Would you bring Darius Garland off the bench on a limited basis for 3 to 4 games to get his rhythm? 41% of the people said yes. 59% of the people said no. 27,000 views, and over 1,200 people responded to the poll. Now, when you go and look and you take a look at some of the numbers that we talk about, the numbers that accompany him are slightly scary a little bit. Now, Darius Garland obviously does not have his feet underneath him, right? He doesn't have exactly his feet what he's averaging. He's averaging 18.8 right there. But if you go back and you look at the last since he came back, he got 19 points his first night back, 3 assists. At Memphis, 9 points, 7 assists. Against San Antonio Spurs, 4 points, 4 assists. Sacramento Kings, 11 points, 5 assists. The Wizards, 13 points and 4 assists. Brooklyn, 14 points, 7 assists. And the Toronto Raptors, 11 points and 8 assists. So he's hovering around about 10 points or so.
A clearly diminished role.
That's the point.
And they're 7-0.
That diminished role, and he's 7-0. Now, when you look at the salary rise, right, and we talk about it, hey, look, basketball players to me is the most sensitive people in all the world. It's only they're an elite group of people. They play AAU. They hang with only 5 or 10 of them, and it's a different world. Darius Garland, in terms of what he makes, is an elite guy. $34 million. Now, mind you, that's a year. Guess who else makes that type of money? John Morant, he ain't coming off the bench. James Harden ain't coming off the bench. Karl Anthony Towns ain't coming off. Devin Booker ain't.
Aren't these guys definitively the best players on their team?
Yes, indeed, they are.
And Darius Garland is not.
Jamal Murray, NBA champion. Brandon Ingram. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And this is the thing that hits you. He makes more than Donovan Mitchell. So
That's a fact.
He makes more than Jason Tatum.
Also a fact.
When you make that amount of money and you in the league, you not only would he not do it, his agent will be like, we got rid of Colin Sexton for this guy.
His agent's Rich Paul, for anyone wondering.
And his name's Rich Paul. He'd be like, coming off whose bench? Darius Garland, I don't care if he averages 5 a game. My client is not, because you know how I go in the league, Jay. If you get bounced from one team where you was the man, people start whispering. He really ain't even a point guard.
You know what people do, though, when you win an NBA championship as a definitive great 6th man? Name some that have done it.
Ginobili,
Porter. Michael Porter didn't start. Did he? For the Nuggets? But I'm going to call him great.
He did last year.
Now think about it. You done already moved him in your mind to 6th man. You see?
And I'm not saying definitively 6th man. I'm not. I'm saying there will be matchups.
Right.
That you look at, and it's all dependent on the matchups. That's what the Cavs don't get, well, Cavs fans don't get. If you want to keep running into that same brick wall, then don't be surprised if you get bounced in the first round. The Cavs were bounced in the playoffs last year, not because they weren't the better team. Mm-hmm. They lost the matchup game with the Knicks. They had no answers. What I'm saying is there will be series where you just look at things and say, whoa, they got nobody to handle Darius Garland in their second wave. So once they go to their second wave, I'm giving my star a breather, and my team probably just got better. Because Garland coming in for him to now do what Mitchell was doing is doing it against an inferior defender. And now all of a sudden, the coach is going to look at his rotation, and his second wave is going to end up being 2 minutes instead of 4. What does that do to the starters in minute 46, 47, and 48 when 95% of all playoff games are decided?
I will say this, though.
They're more tired.
Since he's been back, I heard him speak to the media the other day, and I really appreciated what he had to say.
I did too.
You know, he said that I'm not in game shape. I'm still working myself back into game shape, and that I'm just really out here trying to get my teammates involved. And so, like, the Cavs were plus 19 with him on the court their last game. I appreciate the fact that Darius Garland is not out here just jacking up shots just for the sake of jacking up shots, right? He's playing within the offense. He's doing his thing. You know what I mean? Like, as he's coming back and getting himself back into basketball shape, you know, I'm just throwing out different scenarios of while we're in this little stretch of how can I do more to get Darius Garland going when it comes to the point side of things. I think he's doing his job when it comes to being a facilitator and getting his team involved. I appreciate the fact, like I said, that he's not forcing anything
Right.
while he work himself up back into shape, but it was just a thought. Maybe or maybe not, this could be a confidence booster for you, as you come back next couple games and we playing some bums and you the leader of the second team. Now you back to dropping 24 a game. Next thing you know, you back in the starting lineup and you dropping 24 a game there. It's
how
not the worst thing
pieces
in the
fit
world.
together.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down
That's all.
to.
Are
And-
you seeing some McNuggets in his game that would be alarming, or you just figure it's just a matter of time?
No, he's working his way back. If you want to Earl's point of matchups in the playoffs, like they're undersized when they play together. Some of the teams in the Eastern Conference have supersized lineups. If Garland's not closing a game at any point, it's probably because defensively they have 2 6-foot guards playing against 4 guys that are 6'8" or bigger on New York or Boston.
So
or
that's
something like
matchup
that.
driven.
Yeah, so
And
maybe it
so
could be
is what I'm
matchup driven, but I don't think. I still think at the end of the day, their best lineup includes Darius Garland. Offensively, those two are their 2 best playmakers with the ball in their hands.
find out.
And in the
We'll find out in the playoffs.
when teams do scheme, you usually have to go to secondary options. They try to take out what you do best. So Garland brings a ton to the table. And the one thing I appreciate with Darius, and Earl, you kind of touched on it, he's not forcing the action when he comes in now. He's trying to fit into the system. And granted, this is something he hasn't played in yet. He missed when they kind of made that initial transition.
Right.
He was still recovering from injury. So for him, it's new. He's kind of working his way back into it. And it's even more difficult for him because he's being asked to change his role in a new system that other players are already used to, or at least a little more accustomed to because they've had more time in. So I'm not too worried. The last few games have been more promising, and you saw his assist numbers go up.
Yeah.
I thought Toronto was his best game. The plus 19 is one stat that kind of shows, all right, maybe some things kind of worked out, but plus minus is a weird
I know.
stat that doesn't tell everything. So Dean Wade didn't make a shot and was a plus 20 against Toronto, and it's just kind of
Johnny Bravo.
It's one of those
circumstantial,
stats that,
but I'm not throwing the red flag up yet. I'm not really worried.
the plus minus is weird. You're right. I can watch a game.
It's a
and
great stat.
I never look at it
It's
in
a
the
great
game.
stat,
I
but
always
it's
look at
also
it
not
after.
the end all be all.
Yeah, it's not the end all be all. And a lot of times, not more often than not, but a lot of times, I'll look at the plus minus when the game is over, and I'll look at the box score and go, wow, he was -7. I wouldn't have guessed that this player was -7. And sometimes it happens the other way. How in the hell was he plus 14? They looked terrible when he was in the game. So it's weird, but
To kind of put a bow on it, is there anything that they could do to have either one of you excited going into the playoffs?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Do
But
you-
again, it's to me, it's all fool's gold. We learned it last year more than ever before. When a 52-win team flames out that spectacularly in the playoffs,
I'm
anything
excited.
is possible.
I'm excited now. Like, I'm a Cavs fan before anything. Like, I'm gonna be excited. I love the way they're playing now. Like, I'm excited to see them play now. They play Wednesday. I'm excited for that. Like, as they keep this thing rolling and going to the playoffs, hell yeah. Like, fandom eventually will take over. I can't sit up here and give no pretty critique answer of they need to do X, Y, and Z. They're winning. They're having fun doing so. They look damn good doing so. And as a fan, I'm excited to see it. Just stay consistent with it.
You know the one thing that can make me most excited? Stay out of the Knicks' crosshairs. Don't like that's why the 2 is so important.
Right.
Because the Knicks, I think, improved themselves more than anyone at the trade deadline. And for me, you start looking you're doing the reverse math. Well, if we're a 4 and the Knicks get the 5, uh-oh. But if we're a 3, it's
And
less
it's-
likely you're going to see the Knicks
But
because
you
I think
could-
the Knicks are going to finish in the second half better than they did the first.
But you could also see the Sixers and Joel Embiid is back.
Well, the thing with them missing Joel for so much time scares me that if Philly drops far enough, let's just say the Cavs finish in the 3. Because I do think at the end of the day, it's, for me, Boston, Milwaukee, Cleveland, although Milwaukee and Cleveland are close. But if Cleveland finishes in the 3, the likelihood is you won't see the Knicks, but you could see Philly if they fall far enough without Embiid. That's not a first-round matchup that suits you.
I will be excited if, here's the way I looked at it. I always assume, to me, on paper, the Milwaukee Bucks, when you have Lopez, when you still got Middleton, you still got Giannis, and you got obviously Dame Dollar. I feel like they just got a better roster. You know what I'm saying? It's the highest end. But if you could tell me the Cavs is going to be in the second seed over them and almost win 60, if they win 60 games, I feel like you got to be. At that point, we ain't seen no 60.
What are they on pace for? 55?
If they win 60 games, G, that means the rest of the season they can only lose 4 games.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
So for them to go 60 right now, they are 35-16. They'd have to go 25-4 to end the season.
Yeah, that won't happen.
You know what's so funny? You look at the schedule coming up. They got bums coming up too.
They do got a
And they
very
lucked out
easy
with
schedule
Philly.
to end, but
They've got Philly 3 more times.
They got an easy little schedule. I'm like, dang, they
How
might
much
win.
of this 17-1 run do you attribute to the schedule? Because they have had Milwaukee twice, but they've also, the schedule has been very kind.
the schedule helps, obviously, but they've been playing really good basketball. They're number 1 in net rating. They're number 3 in offense. They're number 1 in defense.
Well, when you're playing bad teams, though, it's
but I'm
easier
just
to-
saying, it's not like it's flukes. And the thing we talked
What's
about,
I wonder what the
yesterday.
winning percentage is of the teams collectively over the
I
last
can't do that
18.
math off the top of my head. But
No, it's gonna take
I'll say
longer than
this,
that.
and we'll move on in a sec. 2 things that are different about the Cavs this year than last year. One, they don't just have one way to win. Last year, if Donovan Mitchell had an offensive game, they struggled to score 105 points.
Right,
they had
right.
to win defensively. This year, they can beat you defensively.
That's
They can
what I
beat
like.
you offensively, more versatile. Secondly, most cases, there's been a few blips. They're not playing with their food. They're beating the crap out of bad teams. That's part of the plus 303.
Sure.
The average margin of victory, they have 6 games in this 17 out of 18 where they haven't trailed by a single point. They're not just winning. They're crushing bad teams.
Let me ask you a question. Of the brain trust that you call friends,
Mm-hmm.
you've got people in high positions that you're friends with in the NBA. What is the general consensus of your Emerson brain crowd on what the Cavs are doing and what they are? Are they buying it?
They're kind of similar to you guys. They're really good, but until they win a playoff series, it's all sham.
I think that's
Not a sham, but it's all they got to prove it before I'm fully bought in.
Okay.
Which
Yeah,
I think's
that's
fair.
fair.
I think it's fair. You can admit they're really good and still acknowledge, not admit, acknowledge. They have to prove it in the playoffs before you can fully buy into them as a legit contender.
Yeah, JB. All eyes are on JB once the playoffs start.
Really quickly, the next few games: Sixers, Chicago, Orlando, at Philly, at Washington. Those are winnable games.
All of those are.
You got Dallas, Luka and Kyrie. But after
Where is that? Is that home?
That's at home.
Ooh.
And then you got a game against the Knicks in New York. That's a national TV game.
I'm gonna watch that with great
And then
interest.
they got 2 days later the Boston Celtics.
That's both at home, by the way.
And so that's those 2 dope games, and then a couple other dudes down the
Wow.
stretch. They got Minnesota twice, who's number 1.
When's the Boston game?
The 5th,
the 5th.
March 5th.
Okay, let's revisit this March 5th.
Yeah, March.
Yeah.
March
They got
March
New
3rd,
York
March
March
5th.
3rd, Boston March 5th.
And both those are in Cleveland.
Both in Cleveland.
Okay, so March 6th,
we'll have a really good tale.
we'll have a
tell of
great
how good
conversation
Right.
about
Right.
what are the Cavs a month from the playoffs.
Yep.
But I mean, back to wrap it up with what he asked for. Are the Cavs getting enough credit? No, but who cares? Just keep winning.
Well, you're
Right.
you're Nipsey Hussle.
Yeah,
line.
just keep winning.
Yep.
The hell with the credit.
Keep
just
paying
keep
your
winning.
dues.
Keep doing what y'all doing.
Yeah, credit will come.
Yeah, just keep winning.
All right.
Awesome. One more word from FanDuel here. NBA season is red hot, and you can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if their bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and much, much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to shoot your shot. FanDuel, an official partner of the NBA. We'll do this one quickly, guys, because we have 2 topics to get to, and we got a bunch of super chats. So real quick, 5 minutes. The Ohio State Buckeyes lost Bill O'Brien to Boston College, replaced him with Chip Kelly as their new offensive coordinator. How do you think the fit between Chip Kelly, all the talent in Columbus, and Ryan Day will go for the Buckeyes in 2024?
Wow. This move
Came out of the
we
blue.
were in the gym Friday when it
On
happened.
Friday, came out of the blue, yeah.
I was literally like, what the hell's going on in college football right now? What happened in just Ohio State's example, you had a coordinator leave for a very mid Division I job.
Yes. Yeah.
Very mid division. He was at a top 5, perennial top 5 team as the offensive coordinator, and then suddenly leaves to become a head coach of a school that
For a school whose head coach left to become a coordinator in the NFL.
exactly. And then you have, which is unprecedented. I asked around on Friday and Saturday. I looked it up. If it's happened, I can't find an example. You had a head coach who has extensive experience at both the NFL and collegiate level leave. Now, I'm not going to call UCLA a blue blood program, but they're a very decorated program. He left the head coaching job to become an OC at Ohio State.
And you were already playing Ohio State. You're in the conference. You're in the Big Ten.
I still can't get my mind around this.
I love it.
Listen, I love it. Ohio State got a lot better. I loved the timing of the news. Earlier in the day, Michigan announced Wink Martindale is leaving the NFL to go to become a DC in college football. And within hours, we see your Wink Martindale, and we raise him a Chip Kelly.
You know what that tells me? That tells me the money is getting too good. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of cash being infused in college football. And it also shows me that now it's an arms race. We told you now you're going to be, if you're UCLA, you got to compete with USC. And nowadays with the one and dones and guys moving around, you got to recruit year round. It is not a coincidence that Nick Saban was like, I ain't doing this no more.
No, you're right.
Because it don't matter if you get a top 10 recruiting class. Back then, you get a top 10 recruiting class, you could just stockpile people and no one could go nowhere. Now you can waste a budget, give him an NIL deal, and he'll be on the next thing smoking in Tennessee. And you're like, Tennessee's trash. They're like, well, they gave me this amount of money, and it is what it is. I think these coaches, these head coaches, don't want the headache. They just want to go I'll go insulate myself as a coordinator.
And make good money.
Make good money and not have to deal with it.
That's a great point, and I think the thing that's really driving coaches crazy, and they're going to have to find an answer to it, or they're going to lose a lot of really good coaches. You're not just recruiting the class of 2024 right now. Mm-hmm. You're going to recruit them again next year, same kids.
Same persons.
And then you're going to recruit them the following year because the transfer portal is a real thing. It is having a bigger impact on college football's hierarchy than anyone thought, and it is going to drive coaches that are financially secure and their legacy is set, like Nick Saban. And there's not many of those guys, by the way. But it's going to drive those coaches directly into retirement. Because one of the I'll read one comment that I thought was fascinating as I was asking around experts that have covered this thing for 30 years. One comment was very interesting, and here's what it said. College football is becoming more like the NFL, but instead of 32 teams, there's going to be 50. There's going to be 2 power conferences in the not too distant future, the Big Ten and the SEC. Yes, we've gone to 12 teams for the playoffs, but winning is going to be more difficult in college football than ever before. You'll see a lot of coaches leave the profession or go to the NFL as a coordinator instead of moving jobs internally in college football. And I don't think that that's very far off the mark. Mm-hmm. It's because look at it. We're already pretty much there. If you're not in the Big Ten or the SEC, do you really have a chance?
No.
Pac-12, battle of attrition, they're gone. The Big 12, really? I mean, the good teams have left to the SEC. And the ACC, they had a team that was undefeated and didn't get one of 4 dance tickets. So it's as if it wasn't already the Big Ten versus the SEC. Now the cat's out of the bag. They've said the quiet part out loud, and everybody is scurrying to get into one of the 2. The NCAA is going to have to be faced with a really, really big decision. It's coming within the next 3 to 5 years. They're going to have tiers of Division I college football. So the MACs and the WACs and these smaller conferences that really have never had a chance to win anyhow, why are they in Division I? They're going to be a secondary tier of college football. And look, that'll be a celebrated playoff champion. And I'm not calling it like Division 1A. These are Division I schools, but they're not Power 5 schools, which is really turning into Power 2 schools. Yeah. You'll have 30 in the Big Ten. You'll have 30 in the SEC. And some of the teams that are currently in the Big Ten, Northwestern, bye-bye. You serve no role anymore other than bringing the Chicago market to the Big Ten network. Other than that, you have nothing to offer.
And if they were smart, how they would do it, I asked Gene Smith the same thing. Listen, either you get with it now or you take the L later. If you want to make it viable for more teams to compete, you get your Congress together, you get your senators and your governors, and you all sit around in Alabama or Ohio State or Florida, and you say, listen, here's the going rate that we're willing to pay a college athlete per year. We're going to give them $75. We'll give them $100,000.
Put a cap to it.
We'll put a cap to it. We'll standardize the contract, and then what we'll do is we'll sign those negotiations. And here's the thing. They can renegotiate and ante up for a re-signing bonus. Hey, if you got $100,000 last year, we'll give you $150 if you stick around because you're worth that to our organization.
So kind of like an NBA team can offer a player more than another team.
Yes, and you have your bird rights. If you want to make a certain amount of money, you got to stay put here, right? Like, hey, you were here, you can't get $300,000. You ain't been here that long enough. Now, you can go wherever you want to. But the way to do it is standardize it so that now when you go to a school, you ain't even getting poaching. It's just like you know what you're going to get paid.
Yeah. Now, some will say that's anti-American because capitalism is let the market bear out what the pay scale is. But if you think about it, the NFL isn't that way. There's a salary cap in the NFL. We've put a limit on how much people can make.
And that ain't got nothing to do with the NIL.
No, totally different.
Gatorade can give you an endorsement, and that's just part of what you negotiate. Now, but that's for the regular kid. So if I'm the regular kid and I'm a backup defense, rotating defensive tackle, and I'm at Ohio State, yes, I could go over down to Florida, but I could go down there, and now I'm only making $100,000. I might not even get an opportunity to play, and I could stay up here and make more money and do what I need to do and still get another signing bonus money. See, there's always levels to it. There's ambition. There's people that was in MAC schools that thought they wanted to go to the league. There's people that think they're better than where they were supposed to be at. Some people just want their education. Some people just want to go party. Like, it's all kind of levels of people in your team.
Would you be okay with this? Each team you can give one max deal, whatever that is, $2 million a year. Mm-hmm. You can give two second-tier max, $1 million a year. Mm-hmm. And you can give three third-year deal, $750,000 a year. That would keep anybody from going Operation Stockpile with some wealthy donor just writing $10 million checks left and right. And at least there's some salary cap, some structure, and that will ensue the integrity of competition.
And regular guys get you $100,000 or whatever you're gonna give them. Just
set those pay scales.
And if they were smart, they would do it, and people would accept it because, to be truthful, everybody ain't getting NIL deals.
No, they're not.
Everybody ain't getting.
And that's the free and open market is the NIL
Right.
deal. Here's the thing: if a player like Johnny Manziel comes from the weeds and doesn't get anything upon signing, but wins the Heisman, he's going to make that money up in his Heisman commercials and everything else that he's going to get.
Yeah, they should get together and do it. It'd be smart. But if they let it go, true capitalism, y'all gonna be in trouble. You're gonna have people transferring every 5 minutes.
And that's going to be tough.
It is crazy. We're going to do super chats here real quick. Then we got to play a package from Mike Polk and do two things real quick. But last time for today, get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and shoot your shot. FanDuel, an official partner of the NBA. Got 4 super chats for you guys today. 2 from our guy Spoonie Images, who said, so much for the Chiefs having a down year, right? And Spoonie also said, I had a dream just before the game. Took a quick nap. The Chiefs won. Taylor Swift caught a long pass from Mahomes. True story. Zach Huffman said Mahomes is not the GOAT. How quickly we forget about Tom Brady. To be honest, I blame Josh Allen for the Chiefs being in this game. And Brody's bottom line says Anthony Edwards is the best player on Minnesota. I agree, Brody. He is the best player on the Timberwolves. Last week, we got the report from the Northeast Transportation blog that Jimmy Haslam bought land out by the airport as a potential spot for the Browns to move. And our friend Mike Polk did a little story on it. So let's listen to Mike Polk, and then we'll talk about the potential of the Brook Park Browns. What's up?
Right now, I might be standing where the 50-yard line could be at the new Browns Stadium. You can almost feel it, can't you? Of course, right now it's just a big empty tract of land here in Brook Park, but Since the Haslam Sports Group just bought 176 acres here, it's a pretty safe bet they're not planning on using it to convert it into a big paintball course. Though frankly, that would rule. Nope, what this tells us is that like a young Cleveland couple who just had their first child, the Browns are considering moving to the suburbs. Nothing is for certain, of course, but the math isn't hard. Brown Stadium, as it currently exists, is not great. It's old, it's cold, and it needs a major upgrade or total rebuild. The stadium lease expires in 2028, so something's going to happen soon. All that's being negotiated now is precisely what will happen, where it will happen, and how much what happens is going to cost everybody. The Browns have been playing downtown since 1946, so if the team does move and the Brook Park Browns become a reality, that would obviously take some getting used to. But this is the way the league seems to be going. 12 of 32 NFL teams already play their home games in suburban municipalities. I've been to a few, and they're not really my cup of tea. Suburban stadiums feel sterile and disconnected from the personality of the city. But I'm also not so rigid that I couldn't suffer through having to watch my football team play in another building 10 minutes away from where I normally do, and without 60-knot Canadian ice winds attacking me from the lake. The good news for the Haslams is that either way, they win. If this move successfully provokes city officials to expedite the process of committing to a stadium plan with what the Haslam Group considers to be adequate taxpayer support, the Browns stay downtown and Cleveland helps foot a hefty portion of the bill for the revamp. If the city balks, then the Haslams can say, well, we gave them a chance, and then start constructing their own little football town in Brook Park, where, unlike in Cleveland, they will own all the property surrounding the stadium. In other words, much more autonomy and potential profit. To be clear, I don't begrudge the Haslam Group's move, and I hope that it's a step towards establishing some clarity on this stadium issue very soon. And whether they stay downtown or move to Brook Park, I personally think the best PR move that the Haslam Group could make would be to fund the entirety of the project themselves and not rely on taxpayers from one of the most impoverished major cities in America to subsidize their incredibly successful business. This is not me begrudging the success of the Haslams, and it's true. They've done a lot of good for Greater Cleveland. But it's important to remember that Greater Cleveland has treated them pretty nice too. The Haslams purchased the Browns back in 2012 for just over $1 billion. According to Forbes, the franchise is now worth more than $4.6 billion. So they're not exactly hurting for capital. And while it is common practice for taxpayers to pay for sports stadiums, it's certainly not required. For example, LA's new SoFi Stadium is not only the most expensive NFL stadium ever built, but was also entirely privately funded. But I recognize that's just a pipe dream and that we're all probably going to still end up on the hook paying for stadium escalators ourselves. But that's football in America, I guess. And I've repeatedly proven to be shameless in what I will endure in order to support this team, no matter what part of town they play in. This is unapologetic Brook Park Browns bro Mike Polk for 3 News.
Brook Park Browns bro. The thing that stands out to me most about Mike's report, which was terrific, by the way, because I thought he got right to the nuts and bolts of the issue. At the end of the day, if he's going to ask taxpayers to subsidize any of this, here's why it's a bad look. He turned $1 billion into $4.6 billion, and likely that number will be $6 billion before long. He did that on the backs of Browns fans. That's how he has added $5 billion, if that valuation continues to rise, to his net worth. How does a man who just invested a couple $100,000 in one of Cleveland's sports team's main competitors to buy part of that, then ask those same Cavs fans to write him tax checks when he's got a net worth of over $5 billion? It's not a good look. And the fact that LA was able to subsidize their entire stadium through private funds tells me if they did it in LA, they can do it in Cleveland. Even if Haslam has to pay for the bulk of it himself. You want a new stadium to add more worth to your team that the city won't own? It will be yours? Build it.
I don't know how true this is, but I heard the Ford family, or who owns the Detroit Lions, they funded the stadium building themselves as well. I told G this Saturday, and I can be totally off base. The fact that Jimmy went out there and purchased 176 acres of land told me that he was kind of tired of the back and forth. He just want to get this done, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Do you think he did that for leverage for the city?
I think he did it. I think he did it for leverage. Definitely, I definitely think so. I think it's one of those. He didn't have so many different meetings with city council and the mayor and things like this, and he's like, man, you know what? This back and forth on what we gonna do. Let me just go ahead and spend my money, go get this land, and if I got to do this myself, I'll do this myself. Either way, I just want a new stadium. I really don't give a damn about how it get done, who pay for it, how you go about it.
And that's where I think most fans are.
I just want a new stadium
with
with a retractable roof.
What if you have to pay for it with tax money?
I pay for everything else with tax money now. I mean, I'm a working Ohio City, Cleveland. I pay for something in some way, shape, or form with tax money.
Right.
brand new stadium, retractable roof, natural grass. If you put it in Brook Park, you got a connected, I think there's 4 major highways that connect. You can build up around it, like, whatever. Just do what you got to do.
You know, we look at it. I'm pretty sure, just like Jeff Bezos and all the billionaires, they're not paying no taxes anyway.
No.
They're not paying taxes. They're you know, when you get to that level, you know, it's the trickle down theory. Okay, well, let's, you know, we're gonna give you tax breaks because you employ a lot of people, and usually people that wealth tax bracket don't pay much. Here's my problem. And my thing is this: if say for instance, you know what I'm saying, I loan you $50, right? But then you say, okay, I got you back, I loan you $50. But then the next week when you get paid, you got Jordans. Where you get them Jordans from? You can't get no Jordans before you pay me. He's like, I got them for a good price. You just went and bought the Milwaukee Bucks. You can't buy the Milwaukee Bucks and then come to me and say, I ain't got no money. You just bought $300-400 million of going rate for that. You could have said, if you really wanted to upgrade, listen, you can't do renovations to this house and then go get you a new mortgage at the same time. The bank looking at you like, you either choose one or the other. So my thing is, yeah, I want a new stadium too, but the political nature of it is, if it's you know, it's re-election time. Sometimes them constituents don't be signing off on that. They say, where else could this money be going?
Well, the other thing that Mike said in his piece is you're going to ask, this is going to be the truth of this. You're going to ask the most impoverished city in the country by some metrics to pay for a house for a billionaire so he can continue to add to his wealth. There is something that is rotten about that statement.
And you got it.
And by the way, I know you said, hey, I'm paying taxes anyway. They might as well. Wouldn't you rather? Could you imagine what $1 billion would do for Cleveland City schools? With our police department, which is sagging in numbers, and as a result, our crime rates are through the roof and raising like never before. So at some point, Mayor Bibb's going to have to make a really hard decision. Everybody in Cleveland cares about the Browns. That's why Mike's right. In the end, it'll probably be struck, a deal between the Browns and the city of Cleveland. But it's just, it makes me feel really dirty to think that how could that other money, it's going to cost $2 billion if they build it. Mm-hmm. How much are they going to ask Cleveland taxpayers to pay for? What could that money do? Just like you said, you don't care how much Deshaun Watson makes. Right. You don't care about that. Well, we all should, because that's that much money that we don't have for Operation Stockpile. It's hard to operate and stockpile a lot of talent when one guy is going to make $65 million against cap next year. So fiscal responsibility is hugely important to the success of every business. It's also important to the success of any city. And our city does not need to be spending hundreds of millions of dollars so a billionaire who bought one of our competitors in another sport can get tax-funded money for a stadium.
And he ain't paying no tax. And he ain't paying no taxes himself.
It's a good setup if you can get it.
Right, I love it too.
Black History Month.
Yeah, man.
Earl.
Take us away.
You know what we do here at the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, man. #1 diverse sports outlet that you're going to find in the city of Cleveland. Today, on Bill Russell's birthday, we're going to honor Bill Russell. He was the first black head coach of a major pro sports team in 1966. He also was the league's first black MVP in 1958. In 1968, he also became the first black man to coach his team to a championship. And so today, you know, we just want to honor Bill Russell on his birthday, with it being Black History Month, man. Like, the impact that he had, you know, for people that look like me, and the encouragement and the motivation and just being an inspiration, like, it can never, like, be forgotten. People like Bill Russell is a true pioneer, a true legend, a true GOAT in every form and fashion of the word.
And it shouldn't be missed that even though he was one of the first player coaches, and as they traveled, Bill Russell couldn't even stay in the same hotel as his team. Yeah. So that is not missed upon me. And by the way, that this is just one generation. You know, we talk about a lot of things like you know, segregation wasn't that long ago. Like, they were still playing basketball back then. Jim Crow was alive and well, and it just goes to show you that we've come so far. But there were some things that happened back then that you say, wow, I can't even believe that happened. But you got to remind yourself. You got to remind yourself that we have come far, but you also have to remind yourself that there's some things that we need to take care of too.
Mike, real quick, I want to say this. We got like 45 seconds before we close. So I'm not going to say any names on this, but somebody I know live in a different state, trying to kind of get in the media game, and their children, one of their kids had read something in the chat that was said about the dad, and the child tried to harm himself. And so I'll just say this to people, like, when you try to be mean, when you try to be cruel, when you say certain things about certain people, you never know who you're impacting that's kind of like connected to that person. Spreading love really don't cost a damn thing in this world.
Don't be a bully.
Like you don't have to be that person, man. Just be careful, because it's a child somewhere that tried to harm themselves based on somebody just simply being mean. We got to be better than that.
See you in overtime.